All right, today we're here with world traveler King Ricochet himself. 3 or 4 days back from Japan. He's probably still
Three.
has a little bit of jet lag, huh?
Yeah. Actually, I say yeah, but Tessa, she was asking me when I landed. She was like, "Are you gonna have jet lag when we land?" And I just said, "I think I'm just always jet lagged."
Did you feel like you're always traveling? I mean, like you're always
Yeah.
you're either in the car, you're in the plane, but you're always going,
Always
going.
somewhere, moving somewhere.
Can you sleep on a plane?
I used to be able to really well, and now it's harder. I can still do it, but it's much harder than it used to be. I think because my body is more stiff, so certain positions are harder or hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I used to. I remember me and Chuck Taylor flying to up north or wherever, and I was out. But now it's much harder.
Yeah, the longest flight I've ever been on was coast to coast, and like when I get to the end of it, I'm just like going crazy. And I know you guys are going to Japan, and you're going to
Yeah.
Chile, and I mean, honestly, I don't know how you do it. Maybe the
I
planes are
gotta go
bigger.
to Australia in July, at the end of July, and I think you lose a day because you're flying so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you hate like those long flights?
Yes, I hate them so much.
When people contact you about bookings, do you factor that in? Like, oh man, I'm gonna have to be on the plane for like.
No, actually, I never factored that part in. But I should because they do get awful when you're just flying for so long. I guess you can get up and walk around a little bit, but I tried to sleep as much as possible on those flights so that I could just get them finished as soon as possible.
Have you accumulated enough miles now where like you always get upgraded on these long flights?
I used to. There was a time me and Tesla were flying with each other a couple of places, and I for some reason kept getting bumped up, and I didn't want to get bumped up, and I kept getting bumped
Yeah,
up.
you did.
so-
You just couldn't tell her that.
Well, I did, but not at that moment, I guess, but I wish we both could get bumped up. I even tried switching with her, and they wouldn't even let me. But I used to, but I think there was like a time where I wasn't flying as much.
Yeah.
So I was Premier 1K, now I'm just back down to Gold. So I have to get back up, and I think I'll start getting bumped up again.
You got to be like, some people when they do the flights, they say I'll only fly this airline, so they make sure those points are.
Mine's usually United. I'm starting to use Delta a lot more too. Delta's starting to get up there pretty good, but United was because when I lived in Kentucky, Paducah just flew to Chicago, and then Chicago flew wherever, but Kentucky only had one.
Yeah, Paducah,
mileage
you
of
can't be
United.
real picky.
You can't be real picky in Paducah, so
You're
United
lucky you don't have to drive all the way to Nashville just to get on the
I
flight.
used to have to.
I know.
I used to have to a lot. And
I think the first time I flew you, I was like,
From
"Hey, could you go to
Nashville.
Nashville? It's like half the price."
People usually they're like, "Hey, can you fly out of Louisville?" And I'm like, "Well, Louisville's 3 hours away, and Nashville's only 2, so can I fly to Nashville?" And they're like, "Okay, that's fine."
Right.
But
It's a little better.
Yeah.
All right. Well, today I just want to like kind of have an overview of your career. I know you've done a couple interviews. I know you love interviews, right? Isn't that the favorite part? You love.
Honestly, no. Like these aren't bad. It's just the ones that are. People just ask me like, "What's your favorite match? Who's your favorite?" Like the same questions,
Oh shit.
No, but everyone knows my favorite match. They know my favorite wrestler.
Right.
So how many more times can I say it on a different platform?
One more time. No. But now we'll cover some of the fun stuff. Kind of
Yeah.
cover a little bit of your career. Like I kind of met you in 2010. No, actually, I met you when you had like really really long hair once. I went to an IWA Mid-South show that you were actually at. It was, of course you don't remember, but then I think I started kind of running into you when you're doing Dragon Gate stuff. But so I've kind of a lot of guys about your age. I've seen like when you started, and I see where you are
Yeah.
now, and then now I'm lucky when I get a phone call back from these guys when I need them on for business
I
and
try to
stuff.
text you a lot.
No, you're great, but
trying.
it's been neat to kind of see your career
Thank you, yeah.
and all the options now that you
And
have.
actually,
as a
the funny
performer.
thing is, it's same to you because I remember talking to Tessa about. I remember back in like 2000 and I want to say 4 or 5. I remember Chuck Taylor showing me this High Spots website, and I remember looking at the tights and looking at the boots and the kick pads, and I ordered I don't know how many knee pads from this place. So that was 2004 or 5. So
There we go. Well, thanks for keeping us alive.
Yeah, trying.
So, all right. Well, let's go way back. Let's go to all the questions that you hate. I know you had a lot of this covered in the recent Steve Austin podcast, which we're going to talk about like as great length as you'll let me.
Yeah.
But just how did you back in Paducah, Kentucky, get even involved in pro wrestling? I mean, not like why you wanted to, but how do you get involved in Paducah?
Paducah, there's not many. There's nothing actually, but odd thing was my best friend at the time, his name's Michael McNeely. His dad knew a guy who owned this like local grocery store, and at the grocery store there was a kid named Justin was his name. He was a wrestler, and so I guess my friend's dad's friend said he could get us tickets to one of the kids' shows, and so we were like, yeah, let's do it. We went to the show. It was in Brookport, Illinois. It's probably about as far south as you can get in Illinois. It's literally Paducah, and then you cross this small bridge and you're in Brookport, Illinois. It's a small town, smaller than Paducah even. And it was in this guy's backyard. His name was Will Woods. He was in his backyard. And, but it wasn't just like...
So they hooked you up with tickets to a backyard wrestling show?
Yeah, but it wasn't just like a backyard... It was a backyard wrestling show, but they had about as much barricade as you can have in a backyard show. And then they had these bus seats. I guess somebody knew a guy who worked for the junkyard or something. So they got these school bus seats. And they had like 2 rows of school bus seats on each side, you know. And they had their chips and their popcorn and hot dogs and little sodas. And so they sold concessions, I guess.
What are you like 14, 15 at the time?
I was 14.
14.
And then I guess some of them were in carpentry class, so they built this pretty cool like entranceway out of like wood, and they painted it Chaos Pro Wrestling. So I mean, it was a backyard, but they just didn't have a building, I guess.
And at 14, that's probably like as good as Madison Square Garden, right?
It was awesome. I thought it was so cool. Yeah. And so we sat after the show. We watched the whole show, and it was obviously I was just loving it, and my buddy, he liked it a lot. And they asked us if we wanted to get in the ring and just like, you guys want to get in the ring? We're like, yeah, sure. So we get in the ring, and me and my buddy, we had trampolines growing up our whole life, so we knew how to do flips and stuff. So we were doing flips like off the second rope, and we're like doing front handsprings and stuff like that. And they're like, did you guys want to like train? And we're sure. And so it kind of just stemmed from there. We trained 2 or 3 times a week for almost a year. And then on my birthday, it was October 11th, 2003, it was me versus my buddy Mikey versus my buddy Larry, who was I was Ricochet, then my buddy Mikey was Kevin Hobbs. We had to name him after, we had to find a name for him, and he couldn't find a name, he didn't like anything. And so there was a guy, one of our friends named Kevin, and then his cat was named Hobbs. So you're Kevin Hobbs, because you need something today.
So your first match, you actually called yourself Ricochet?
Yeah.
So where did Ricochet come from? Was it a movie title? What?
Once I gotta get to that, but my buddy Larry, his name was Kana Azul. He was the blue cat, and he had the worst blue cat mask. He had like a blue janitor's jumpsuit with the arms cut off, obviously. But his Kana Azul. That was my very first match, 2003. But the Ricochet came about. Actually, I didn't even like Ricochet at first, because the show Mucha Lucha was out, and I knew everyone would be like, hey, you good Mucha Lucha name. And I just wanted to stick away from it. So I was trying to think of anything else. We had a list of stuff, and nothing just seemed to fit. And so like the day of the show, I didn't want to get stuck with Kevin Hobbs, so so I was like, I'll be Ricochet. So they're okay, so you be Ricochet. And that's kind of how it came about. And then, actually, I didn't like it for a long time. And then it came around where everyone kind of had, it was like Johnny Gargano, Chuck Taylor, Rich Swann, so, 2 something names. Everyone had it. So I kind of just liked Ricochet. It was something different, kind of like El Generico, and I know it's 2, but it's not like, 2-person name.
Right. Like Sting, you think?
Like Sting, yes. Undertaker. So I liked that, so I just kept it. Because I was actually considering going by either the Ricochet Trevor Man or Trevor Ricochet Man or something, but I was like, nah, I'll keep Ricochet.
So, just because of the way you move in the ring, I'm sure you get this question a lot. You weren't like a gymnast when you were young? You didn't do all this stuff?
No, my parents tried to, and I actually regret not ever doing it, because I was the little kid, that's not for me, that's for girls, blah, blah, blah. But now, like, I wish I would have just done it. I really regret not doing it. But no, I never did. Like I said, me and my friends, we just had trampolines since I can remember, and we're being.
Did your friends stick it out? Did they go on to have great careers?
Obviously Chuck Taylor did, but my buddy Mikey, there was a time where he kind of got out of it a little bit and just more in his real life. But in the past like 2 or 3 years, he's been going back to the gym and getting in shape and really sticking with it. And he went to Canada and Mexico, and so he's starting to get it again. I'm really happy because this is the guy. My very first day of training, he was there. So I'm happy he's getting back into it.
I've seen so many like kids, you know, when I say kids, like 14, 15, and they get in the ring and just the stuff they do, they're amazing. I'm thinking like, oh, this guy's better than 3/4 of the guys on the show right now.
Yeah.
And you know, most of them don't stick it out. So
Yeah,
just think about all the guys that probably
there's a lot.
they just stuck it out.
I know a lot of the guys I started with that you were my trainers in the Chaos Pro Wrestling. There's a lot of guys that were so good. There's a guy named Hex Gage. He was great. A guy named Jeremy Workman, his name. He went by, I think Jeremy Travis, I think is what he went by. I don't remember. But a lot of those guys were really good. I remember watching them and thinking they were so good. And I think, you know, just maybe the real lives took over, you know. But they were all really good. I wish they would have stuck out with it.
And a lot of people credit Chuck Taylor for training you from the beginning. But how long were you in wrestling before you really met up with Chuck?
No, he was there, like, my very first day, it was a guy named Will Woods.
Mm-hmm.
He was a bigger guy, but he was really good too. Kid Sinister. He was really good, especially for a big guy. He was there day one. A guy named Greg Falter. They were all there day one. And then Chucky T, he came in maybe like a month or so later, 2 months later. He knew them from a different company called Old School Wrestling that they would all go up to. And so then he came down. Then he was pretty much. I never had like a head trainer. It was just a group of guys. But Chucky, he was there the most, I guess. After that day, you know, after he came the first time, he was there the most, helping us out.
Was Chuck one of the, you know, now he's got that self-deprecating humor, and that's kind of like, you know, like, it's how I know Chuck, you know.
Yeah.
Did he have that kind of same sense of humor?
A little bit, not as much. I don't think so, but he did. His sense of humor is kind of still the same, but I guess he just now he has like a different style to do it. I don't know, but he was still kind of that way. Yeah, he's been like the same guy the whole time, but he's just been a big jerk to me the whole time.
You're not the only one,
But
But
I love him.
so I know like Kentucky doesn't have a lot go. Do they have a commission even when you started? So like a lot of people don't realize some states have commissions, and like
Some don't.
you know, like South Carolina, south of us,
Yeah.
has a commission. So there's very few shows that happen in South
Yeah.
Carolina, and same with Kentucky. There's not too much going on in Kentucky because it's so much easier to go, you know, a couple miles
Yeah.
north of Illinois and just not have to deal with that. So
I've been wrestling. October will be 13 years. I've wrestled in Kentucky one time.
one time.
And it was.
So you don't keep your Kentucky license up to date?
No, and actually that was the promoter of the show. He just got me the license to do that show where I wrestled Chuck Taylor. And that was the only, and that was back 2000, maybe 2004.
Well, you probably haven't missed too many shows. Like you never hear of stuff going on in Kentucky.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we would always wrestle, like you said, we'd go a couple miles to Illinois or Indiana or Tennessee or some places like that didn't have a commission, so I could do it.
So how do you branch out from these backyard arena shows with you know bus seats as your pews, and how do you start getting
Actually,
on the road?
my first show was the backyard, but the very next show we had the local gymnasium.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm a backyarder for sure, but one official backyard match other than me and my friends just joking off, you know. But yeah, the next month we got a building. But Chuck Taylor was definitely the big factor why we branched off, because I said before he went to school for like video editing, and I guess even when he was in high school he just still had a knack for it. He knew how to do it, so he made these pretty cool little music videos. You can still look them up today. Like just look up Chaos Pro Wrestling, and there's a couple of pretty cool videos he made. We were pretty crazy back then, so he has some pretty cool spots on it. But then he put his email at the bottom and sent them out, and like I said, Insanity Pro Wrestling in Indianapolis, Indiana was one of the first bigger companies to get us, and then that's when Ian Rotten saw us, and then that's when Chikara and CZW and all those ones like up northeast. So yeah.
Yeah, my first memory of Ricochet is, and I don't know if you were the first to do it, but I remember this small kid used to do this double back moonsault.
Yeah.
And like you kind of separated yourself just on that. I mean, you know, obviously you had more than just that.
Not at the time, no.
But but that made a lot of people like, oh crap, you know, that was unbelievable.
That
So,
and that actually was because it's a really funny story. We were at we had a Chaos Pro Wrestling show, and my buddy Hex Gage was his name, Terry Hines. He did Phoenix 630, you know, the Phoenix Splash, but he did Phoenix 630, and it was the wickedest thing I've ever seen, especially live. And so I was like, next show I'm gonna do a double moonsault. I'm gonna do a double moonsault, and they're like, yeah, whatever. So I went home on my trampoline and I practiced double moonsaults for a whole month until the next show on my trampoline. And my buddy Mikey was there too. He could do it too on the trampoline, but he couldn't do it in the ring. But on the trampoline, he could. And so the next show, I mean, it was make it or break it. And I stood up there, and my buddy Matt, I'm trying to think of his wrestling name. Matt Winters was his name. Like he's a winner, Matt Winters. He was sitting down there, and he's like, "You ready?" I'm like, "Let's go." So I go up there and I do it. I have an afro at the time, and when I'm coming down, you can see my afro like scrapes the bottom of the ground because it was that close.
right.
But it
Those
was-
you know,
yeah,
those
that's the
moves
first
scare me
one.
like that, and you know like what Trevor does. Not Trevor. Andrew Everett
Yeah.
does it. Like I mean, I'm just thinking like one day someone's gonna be a half rotation off, and we're gonna have a nasty finish to it. So,
I've knocked myself out doing the double against Matt Seidel. It was our first match we ever had back in
You landed on the back of your head?
Mid-South. No, I think I just landed on more the top of my head, and it was just I remember being up there, going for the flip, and then next thing I remember I'm in the back and Ian and everyone's like looking at me and I'm like, what just happened?
some people when they have a concussion, I'm sure that's what you had.
Yeah.
They finish the match, and then you,
I
you
finished the
forget.
whole match.
So you did. See, that's what's
And
nice.
the funny thing is, because I go back and watch it, and there's the part where like he comes up to the top with me, and we do something, and I jump off or something. He moves, I land. He gives me a moonsault or something. I kick out of something. Yeah, I was like, what is? I don't remember any of this.
It's like you have a segment of your brain and it's just gone forever. It's just
That actually happened in AAW. It was me and ACH versus I think Dave and Jake Chris.
Okay.
And Dave dove on me, and I went to catch him. It's completely my fault. I was just wide open. You know, I should have had my hands up or something, but he came down and just hit me. And then I remember being in the back, like Tessa and Moose and everyone's checking on me. I'm like,
But same thing. You finished the match, and then
and they were like, no, the match was great. And there was a lot more to that match.
Right.
I had to pick someone up and toss them, and there's a bunch of stuff. I don't remember any of that.
it's scary, isn't it?
It's crazy it's just crazy how we can do that.
Yeah.
It's crazy how we can do that.
So the IWA Mid-South is like the first time I think Ricochet kind of got on anybody's radar. How did Chuck Taylor kind of get you in there?
Like I said, yeah, those videos that got us to Insanity Pro, we were at Insanity Pro for a good year or so, and then because a couple of the Chaos Pro Wrestling boys came up with us. There's a guy named Ty Blade, my buddy Mikey, Jeremy, a guy named Josh who went by Malachi at the time. A bunch of us came up there, and again, I guess me and Chuck Taylor was the one that really stuck with it hard. Then Ian Rotten got a hold of us from there, and then we went to
Tell me your first memory of an Ian Rotten show, because man, that's like a circus. I mean, he's got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, especially at the time we were in Plainsville, Indiana. It was my very first one. It was obviously me versus Chuck Taylor, but I remember seeing like a bunch of the guys that I watched, at this show, and it was just really cool. So
Yeah, who were the top guys when you first started IWA?
oh man, I think there's a tag team called the Tomaselli Brothers. Do you remember those guys? They were like the top heel tag team of the company at the time, and I just remember Hero being there. Like Trick Davis was there.
Okay.
Trick Davis was the guy that I got to be real good friends with as time. But I remember that for some reason the Tomaselli Brothers just stick out to me most. I think they helped me out a lot. Like they helped me out on the side of wrestling because I could always do the flips and do this and that. That was the easy part. But actual psychology and wrestling, I mean, I guess I knew it, but they helped bring it out a lot. So I like to thank them a lot for that. But they're the ones that really stick out at the time. But I just remember Plainsville, Indiana. We were in like some sort of gymnasium. It had purple plastic tiles as the floor. And I think that night it's like Mitch Page versus Ian or something. So, like it's going to get crazy like at night, at the night. And then I did the double moonsault for the finish. I think Chucky T moved or something. I don't know. But I remember him being like, because when Ian got excited, he had like a high voice. He's like, oh, oh, like so. Like I did that, and he made this funny noise. It was cool. But then then the next night it was Midlothian, Illinois. It's me and Chuck Taylor versus Eddie Kingston and Brandon Tomaselli. And then I double moonsaulted on Eddie's face. My thigh like just came right, bam, right on his face.
Well, we bought the IWA Mid-South library, so like we use it a lot for like B-roll footage, and we sell the collections and stuff. I went back in our collection. Went back to our collection, and I was just like looking for like maybe the oldest Ricochet singles match I could find. And I don't know if this is the oldest, but we found this one, which I thought was
the one against Chucky T would be.
The Chucky T was the first.
Technically, yeah.
I don't know. I was just gonna have you like maybe.
This is probably actually even worse than that, though.
I don't know, man.
Prepare yourself for some high
I'm gonna turn the sound down a little bit, just because I care more about like your reaction to it. We'll put this up on the screen for Phil.
I did wrestle.
Ricochet employs
Tyler Black.
Yeah, Tyler Black. But what's even more amazing is like I bet if you guys stood next to each other today, like you're probably about the same size.
He's a little taller than me.
A little taller, but I mean, look at that now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a huge difference in size.
Dang, I forgot. Oh, remember this? I think this was literally the next show we did for them. After the one me and Chuck Taylor, and then the next night. I think this is the next month or whatever.
So you hadn't seen that match in a while?
No, I've 100% forgot about this match.
Because he was kind of Tyler was one of the more established guys in the area and stuff. You could see he was already filled out, and
why am I going?
You were not. This is about as small as anyone's ever going to see you on tape. Just. And we're going to show this to Tessa later. So this is the guy you're dating. This guy with the afro and the. He probably wasn't. Tessa's a little just off camera here, just so you get a sense of what's going on.
Oh man!
I don't know if you were much bigger than Tessa at the time.
She's probably bigger than me.
She's probably stronger than you.
She's probably stronger than me.
But yeah.
I was going. What am I gonna do here?
So when you look back at things this old, you don't even remember.
No, I remember this. I 100% remember this. Now he caught me in a power bomb. Nope. I just did a tope out of the ring, and he caught me in a power bomb. And now he's swinging me through the people. Ow! Seth Rollins, not cool, brother. He had me on his shoulders and ran me to the wall.
Is this the only time that you remember working Tyler Black for?
No, we worked in a 10-man. It was April 9th, 2009? 2006, I want to say. And it was one where Merrick Brave was on the corner, and he did the shooting star on top of the turnbuckle. Poor Merrick Brave, I'm sorry, buddy. But I remember being caddy corner and seeing, boom, I was like, oh! Because he was supposed to shooting star onto Chuck Taylor. And that was the one where I did the double moonsault off the ladder. He was down there at the bottom, holding the ladder for me like a good brother.
Another guy that stood out in my mind, and he never really made it outside that area, was Tarek the Great. Did you ever get a chance?
Tarek, yeah.
Did you ever work with Tarek?
I think I had a singles match in IWA Mid-South with him. No, he wrestled also in Insanity. I don't know, but yeah, I remember Tarek. He was a
Whatever happened to Tarek?
I don't know.
Yeah, he was a guy that I know was making a lot of noise when the internet was kind of taking off around this time. Chuck used the internet to your advantage and got you guys a lot of bookings off of his video editing skills. And Tarek just doing so many cool spots, kind of everybody's like, oh, I want to see more of that Tarek the Great.
I wish I still had these shorts. If any of you have these shorts, send them back to me. I think I may have sold them. Oh! He was big swinging me and then just chucked me out the ring.
How much do you think you weighed during this match?
Oh. I would say maybe 120. Maybe. Maybe 120.
All right, sorry, Tessa. Then he was actually bigger than you. So, yeah, but it's kind of cool to go back and look at your career.
Can't do it.
You can't do it.
I remember going back and watching an IWA Deep South. It was me versus Chuck versus Cabana Man Dan versus someone else.
It was like a 5-man elimination.
It was a 4-man match. But it was a 5-man because it was Black Jesus.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just so bad. I don't see how anyone even could cheer for me because I was just so bad. At least until I think I was.
Well, everybody, I think, looks back and, like, you're your own worst critic.
But, yeah, maybe.
But there are other people that's like, man, you used to do all these cool spots back then, and now you don't.
That is
when's the
cool.
last time you did a double moonsault? I mean, you're too big to do it.
July, this I guess this month will
Really?
be 3 years.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say this month.
No.
Okay.
It'll be 3 years since the last time I did it. I did it against Tozawa at Kobe World when me and Doi won the tag championships from him.
Explain why you cut back now. I mean, you're like, what do you weigh now? Like 2?
No, I
15?
wish. Like 186. I lost
Really?
like 10 pounds.
Okay. Well,
I've been
you're in
traveling. I've been
Japan,
traveling.
right?
No, I've just been traveling since like March.
Well, you look like you're over 200.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
Yeah,
that. Actually, funny story. Sorry to veer off. I was on the plane back from Japan, and the guy was coming around. He's like, "Sandwiches? You guys want sandwiches?" I'm like, yeah, I'll take one. He was like, "Hey, well, you better have 2 to feed those big muscles." I was like, "Oh, thank you."
But you can't do at 185, 190 what you could do at
No,
130.
I can still do it, but it's harder.
Yeah.
I can tell like a lot of things are much harder now. Like the standing yay time, like the standing back full twist.
Mhm.
Actually, for some reason in practice I can do it just fine, but when I get in the match, maybe I'm just tired or something. But it's so much harder to do. I guess so. I kind of cut back out on that, and I just trying to preserve my body. I guess pretty much because it's a lot of landing.
Right.
So that's why I try to save it for when it matters, I guess.
Mhm.
I just can't be doing it every single match. I know sometimes, a guy will book me and he expects all that, but it's for my knees. Sometimes my knees hurt. My ankles are hurting all the time. So I try to preserve my body. But I still try to give you some cool stuff. That's why I try to stick the deadlifts or something like that. I don't know, but I had to cut back just because it's hard on my body. Now when if I were to do a shooting star or a 450 or something onto somebody, I just all I got, I kill them every time because for you it's gonna knock the breath out of you for a couple seconds. Me too, but it's gonna be so much better on my knees, on my elbows, on my shoulders. Poor Nick Jackson, I kill him every time I do something to him. Every single time I kill him. So yeah, it's mostly that's why I can still do a lot of it. I still 100% sure I can do the double moonsault. I just
Just save it.
yeah.
All right. Well, just wrapping up on the Mid-South. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people talk really highly of Ian, and other people like hate his guts now. Just where are you at with Ian? Is he
Honestly,
kind of,
yeah, he may have screwed me over in some money a lot of times, but if it wasn't for Ian, I wouldn't have got noticed as much. He definitely got me some notoriety, I guess, in just these different matches. Because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have went to Chikara or CZW, and if it wasn't for Chikara or CZW, Gabe might have never saw me, and Gabe booked me on Evolve, and Evolve went to Dragon Gate USA, that went to Dragon Gate Japan. So
all right, well, you give me a whole outline of the rest of this interview.
there you go. It was just a chain of events, and
Right.
I think all stem from Chuck Taylor making these music videos of us in Chaos Pro Wrestling, but Ian Rotten's really got me that looks, I guess. Everyone got to look at me, I guess.
Right. So it was the look that you got at IWA Mid-South, the tape you put together, that basically led into your work at Chikara. Talk about starting with Chikara, how you got into there.
I believe our first match was in Hellertown, Pennsylvania. Maybe it wasn't. I want to say it was. But I remember Chikara being awesome. I mean, it still is, but I'm not there anymore, obviously. But I remember it being so cool. I got to wrestle Chuck Taylor a bunch, but I got to wrestle a bunch of other dudes like the Ants. I don't know if you remember all the Ants. Hero and Claudio were there. Those are a couple guys that I really, really wanted to work that I got to. Obviously, Mike Quackenbush. There's just a bunch of good guys there, and that could teach you a bunch. All those guys could teach you. Quack, Chris, Claudio, all those guys could just for days teach you how to do stuff, and So and that's also where I learned my like lucha style, I guess, because before every show, Quack would have a long seminar on luchas or something about lucha, whether it's a move or the history or something about lucha. He would have a seminar.
So basically, all the wrestlers on the show would participate in the seminar.
Yeah, yeah. And so he would teach us, and that's where I learned that, and it was a whole different style for me, I guess.
You know, he has even today. It's Chikara is unique in
The
that
wrestle factory.
it's a very tight knit.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys don't even get outside of Chikara. They're very happy, content
Yeah.
just staying right there. But did you remember it as something uniquely different than anybody?
Oh
any
yeah,
place else you worked?
100%. Especially because you had a lot of companies like CZW and IWA Mid-South, which were like strong style, hardcore, kind of matches, and his was just like the lucha, fast paced. Of course, you had your Chris Heroes, and you had those guys like Eddie Kingston who would hit you, and you could do the strong style, but but that wasn't it. You had the colors and the costumes, and the stories were deep, and it was different. It was way different than anything there, which was part of, maybe it was part of the reason why I liked it so much, I guess. Yeah.
What stood out in Chikara for you when you look back at Chikara? Like what things?
Just the style of the wrestling, because, again, a lot of these companies, you come out there and cuss a storm and cut these interviews, cussing all that stuff, and in Chikara, they just didn't allow that, they didn't even allow spitting, really, so...
Yeah, Kevin Steen talks about. I guess he cursed at one of the shows and he got banned.
Yeah.
It was like for real.
Yeah, Quack didn't like it, Well, not that he didn't like it, it's just he had the style he wanted to stick to, and he was really adamant about it. But, yeah, just the style and, like, the stories were really cool. That's where I came the whole Helios character.
Mm-hmm.
But,
First time with a mask.
yeah. And at first, I
So
was...
for people who didn't watch Chikara, including myself, because we never distributed Chikara. So like, I was looking back at your career and I was like, I never saw that. Give us summarize the Helios.
Well, me and Chuck Taylor, we wrestled in the Young Lions Cup. It was like a big tournament for just up-and-comers. And we were in the finals. He beat me. And then I challenged him again or something, and he said, all right, but if I beat you, you can't show your face here in Chikara again. And I was like, okay, we did it. He ended up beating me. He's like, yeah, he cut a big promo. You can never show your face here in Chikara, blah, blah, blah. So I was gone for like 2 or 3 months. Then I came back, I think in the same building. No, I came back a different building. I came back in this mask and the tights, and I had the hair out of the mask, obviously. And he was like, no, that's Ricochet. And the fans were like, no, that's Helios. And so I beat him that night. I was the Young Lions Cup champion, and then we did a whole story of him being crazy and being like, I know that's Ricochet. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so he went crazy for a while. But it was a pretty cool time, and then I forgot who I lost it to, the cup or whatever, but then we just stuck with that, and it seemed to just catch on, and it was pretty cool after that, yeah.
What do you think of Mike Quackenbush as a promoter?
I think he's a very intelligent promoter. He knows what to do. He knows how to train his guys. He knows the business part of it really well. Obviously, like you can tell, he knows merchandising, all that stuff. So, I mean, when it comes to promoters, you probably don't get much better than him. I mean, there's good out there, but he knows what he's doing in the wrestling business.
Did Ricochet just grow out of being part of Chikara? I mean, you probably priced yourself out a little bit.
I'm not really sure. We just kind of split ways. I think actually he may have got mad at me for doing a move or something one time, and he got mad at me and stopped booking me or something. I think that's what it was.
Oh, really?
I think he got mad at me. I think I did one of his moves or something, but it wasn't like we were in a story where he was like our mentor. It was me. It was the Future's Now. He was kind of our mentor. So I did one of his moves, being like, hey, it's my guy. But I think he took it the wrong way or something. He got mad at me. And then, but that's also when I started doing the Evolve stuff. And so I think I just stuck with the Ricochet character because I just wasn't at Chikara anymore.
So, yeah, that you were at the first Evolve show, right?
Very first with me, Eric Cannon.
Okay, that's right, yeah. I was probably there. Should remember. But
probably were.
so there's a lot of competition up there, so I could see why working for Evolve, working for DJ, working for Quack. I mean,
Yeah.
they kind of like,
Yeah.
they like to have their own
Their
rosters.
own rosters, yeah. And I knew Gabe was bringing in like a bunch of the Japanese talent, and so obviously you want to try to show yourself to them, so to get a chance over there, obviously.
So your goal at that time was to get into Japan. That was a
It was at least to show them that I wanted to go, I guess, I don't know, really. I was still, I say a young kid, but I had to be 20, 21.
Mhm.
So I was an adult. But,
well, we all have the short-term goals. I was asking if
I think, yeah, like when
someone has to get you to Japan some way.
And honestly, I never even thought when I first started wrestling, I didn't think I was going to be in Japan. I didn't think I was going to go across seas. I didn't think I was going to be in the WWE. I didn't think I was going to do anything when I first started.
Mhm.
So my goal kind of got set after every time I did. Like, I would like travel all these. I mean, we would drive 12, 14, 16 hours one way. And I was like, man, I just want to fly somewhere. And I started flying all this time.
Who was the first promoter that gave you a flight?
I want to say Quack. Quackenbush flew us to Chikara. Because we would drive up there so much. I think 1 month we drove, and that's like a 13-hour drive. We drove it
From Paducah.
from Paducah. Well, Chuck E. T. drove from Mayfield, which was like 45 minutes away, to Paducah. I think one way it was like 13 hours.
Wow.
In 1 month, we did it like 4 times, I think.
So how much do I have to pay Ricochet now to drive 13 hours?
A lot more than back then, 13 hours. Me and Tessa did it one time with Andrew Everett, and I was like, just all that driving, it was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But, so like all my goals kind of came, like I said, I want to fly somewhere. And then I was like, okay, I want to fly overseas, and I did that. And I want to so all mine kind of just came sporadically.
So was Evolve 1 the first time that you ever worked for Gabe?
Yeah.
Do you remember the conversation? I mean,
That was a Chuck Taylor thing. He got that.
Chuck got you in.
He got me a lot of my stuff.
But
Until
I'm sure Chuck got you, but you don't get into Evolve unless Gabe knows who you are.
yeah.
He knew and he was aware
Yeah.
of you. He knew that you'd
That's
fit
true.
in. What was that? Because I remember there was kind of a buzz about Evolve when they started. It was
Yeah.
kind of like he broke away from Ring of Honor. He
Yeah.
was just recently fired from Ring of Honor.
Mhm.
It was like finally Gabe's going to get to do his way.
Yeah.
Do you remember as a wrestler going into Evolve 1? Like, do you remember the buzz?
Honestly, like, I didn't really know too much about Gabe at the time. I knew about Ring of Honor and I knew about all that stuff, but I didn't know who was the booker. I didn't know who was the promoter. I just knew.
You're not the guy that's like sleeps in the back while Chuck drives, right? You weren't that out of it.
No. That was our buddy Mikey. But I wouldn't even really ask questions though.
Mhm.
Because I just knew me and Chuck are going to go wrestle. Because again, I didn't really have any goals.
Right.
I just knew show by show, me and Chuck were going to go here, we're going to go here, we're going to go here, we're going to go here. And so I didn't really know anything at the time. I just knew Gabe Sapolsky was going to run Evolve. And then later I found out he was the booker for Ring of Honor, and I don't even really know what happened. Stuff
So
went
as a
down.
wrestler, you didn't even follow Ring of Honor. That wasn't one of your goals to
When
get
I
to?
first got into wrestling, I knew Stone Cold and The Rock had the best match ever at WrestleMania 15 at the time. Like, as a kid, that's all I knew.
Mhm.
Because I didn't really know about Japanese wrestling. I didn't know about the old school territories. I didn't know about European British style wrestling.
So
I
even
just
Ring
knew
of Honor,
TV.
which was like what independent wrestling, it was at the time and probably still is to have one of the top groups that you could be as an independent
Yeah.
performer. So that was never like I'm going to get to Ring of Honor. I'm going to send in my tapes.
I just knew WWE was on TV.
Mhm.
I kind of knew about ECW because it was kind of on TV at the time, so I kind of knew about ECW.
Okay.
So I didn't really know, but then once I got in, Chuck E. T. showed me Toriamon, he showed me all this other different styles of wrestling, and then that's when I started, so, because when I was younger, I wanted to be in the NFL. I would play football from 3rd grade all the way up to freshman year when I started training for wrestling. So I could talk about old school NFL, but
Right.
I couldn't even chat anything about wrestling.
Why'd you stop playing football?
Because I started wrestling, and our football team was the worst football team to be on in my.
So you didn't have that much of a passion for football, because if you love football that much, even a bad team.
No, maybe I didn't though. But maybe I didn't. But I mean, at the time, I thought I did.
Yeah.
But our team was, we never. It was so bad. It would kill your love for playing football.
Yeah.
We were like 2-8 or 1-9 our very last year. Like, we didn't win any games except for 1 or 2 maybe. But so I didn't know about Ring of Honor. Oh, I knew about Ring of Honor, but I wasn't like, I want to be there. And honestly, all those guys were so good at the time, and I was like, I could never wrestle there because they're so good.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, we did the Evolve one, and then that's when I started working with pretty good guys and getting better each time. Yeah.
Yeah, just if you can remember any details of Evolve 1 or Gabe or Sal or.
Actually, I didn't really. I know Sal was there, but I didn't really get to talk to Sal very much. I talked to Gabe more, and I remember, like, I think was Brian Danielson on that show, or was he on the next one?
That's a good question. I don't remember. I don't remember being on
I
the
want to
first
say
show.
Hero was there, and I just remember being with like a bunch of these good guys.
What I remember about Evolve 1 is like all the music was the same, and it was like the presentation was so different.
That like, I really do like the whole concept of Evolve, but the music thing killed me.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. We were just coming out to the same music. One guy would come out and then 30 seconds. I didn't like that. But the rest of it was pretty cool. Like the concept of winning and wins and losses at the time was, I really liked that. But and I remember the rec center. It was pretty packed, I want to say. And the fans were so good.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember wearing the worst set of gear possible, with the worst head of hair possible. And for some reason, people were still cheering me on.
Well, that opened up some doors for you. You went to Dragon Gate USA.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly thereafter, you got your first tour in Japan.
Yep, December 2010.
Do you remember? Was it one guy just taking a liking to you?
Shima.
Shima.
I remember we did the 4-way match. It was me versus Chuck versus Eric Cannon versus Adam Cole. And I just remember the whole match was so oddly perfect. Like everything we called came out how it should have.
Who called that match? Who put it together?
We all had our own
Usually in a 4-way, 3-way, there's someone
that takes over. I mean, we all had our own ideas, but I think like Cannon and Chucky T were the two that, especially because me and Cole were still pretty young at the time, like, and so Cannon and Chucky T kind of took over. But it just came out exactly like it should have came out. You know, you don't have those matches very often, and that was maybe my first one. And I actually did the double moonsault. I knew the Japanese guys were going to be there, and I knew what they looked for. So I did that, and then Shima was like that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it didn't even matter the rest of the match, really. Even though I loved that match, he said the match was good, but he's like, I want that flip. He's never really straight up told me that, but that's exactly what it was. And so, because the next show we did, it was me and Shima versus Doi and Yoshino, and he wanted me to finish doing the double moonsault on Doi.
Was that the first time where the other 3 guys speak a different language and you're kind of just trying to fit in?
I mean, I wrestled, and there's a company in Chicago called Galley. Mm-hmm. It's more of a lucha libre company, and some of the guys didn't really speak good English, and so that was a little different. But this was the first time none of them really spoke any English.
Because they probably had an idea of the match, and you're like, you got to fit in here.
For sure, they already had the match.
It's like hitting a fast forward button.
Yeah, they already had the match planned out. They knew what's going to happen. They said, blah, 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 you here. I'm like, okay, I'll do whatever you do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then that match came off really, really well, too. And so he got a hold of me, hooked me up with a guy named OG, and OG got me my flight. And I went, I think December 8th is the day I left. And I was there until Final Gate, which is their big their big pay-per-view at the end of the year. And that first tour, oddly, couldn't have went any better. Every match I did perfect every match. And so they're like, okay, let's bring him back. And again, I was working a full-time job at the time. I had to kind of quit. I put my 2 weeks in. I had to quit my job because they wouldn't give me any administration leave. So
Where were we working at the time?
it was called Trinity Marine. It's a small factory in Paducah. We build barge covers,
Okay.
the big boats that transport coal on the rivers. We built covers for those. So we used fiberglass to build these big covers. It was itchy. It was hot. It was smelly.
I'm guessing your boss in Paducah, Kentucky could care less about you wanting to go to Japan, right?
No, actually, they were really good people because I literally worked my tail. I worked as hard as I can. My mom's the one that got me the job because she's been there for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. So she got me the job, and she was really nervous about me coming there because a lot of the guys were jerks to a bunch of the newcomers because they did get a lot of guys who just didn't have common sense because all it is cutting and it's rolling. That's all that job was. And so you just need common sense and you'll be fine. A lot of guys didn't. So she was afraid all the guys were going to pick on me, but they saw I got in there and I just worked and I became really, really good at that job. And so all the bosses and everyone liked me a lot. And they were like, there's always a job here if you want to come back. And I was like, yeah, I'll be back next month. I'm not going to. I honestly thought I was just going to go for one tour, come back and start my life all over again, like working as a job again. But they said, you want to come back in 2 weeks? I was like, yes, I'd love to go back in 2 weeks.
But how do you put together a match when you don't speak the language? And really, it's almost a different style.
It was a lot different style for me because just it was so much more fast-paced than I was used to. I know I did the fast-paced match, but that was a lot more fast-paced.
Because when you do a U.S. match and you miss a spot or two, most people aren't even going to know. You go back to, when you're doing a Dragon Gate style match or a six-man or an eight-man match, there's no room.
There's no room, and they'll tell you. They've told me before. They've told Swan. They've told Seidel's brother Mike. They're like, we must be perfect. They're like, we cannot.
But how do you get perfect? Is it?
Well, really, honestly, it's like kind of, I want to say repetition, just experience. Like, that's what, when everyone asks me, is there any advice you could give me, blah, 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 like, just experience.
So you're walking through it in the locker room, you go over it in your head. I just wonder, it takes a skill just to be able to remember.
Yeah.
Forget about performing, but just to remember where it comes. because there's so much that goes into it. I think a lot of people, when they watch it, they don't realize not everybody's able to do that. Even guys who are really talented in the ring can't hold that much in their brain.
No, and I think, just... And again, when I first got there, they would have the whole match, and they would tell me, you here, you here, you here. And I'm just sitting there and saying, all right, let's do it. And again, I think just doing it night after night, because I think next to the WWE, they travel the most. Mm-hmm. Obviously, WWE's never won, but they travel a lot. And so you do that every single day for a month, and then you come back, do it another
So you were able to basically put the same match together because it's a different audience?
A different city every night. And so one tour, say me and Shima were feuding against these two guys. So a lot of the tour would be us. And then the next tour, it's me and this guy versus these two guys for the main show. So they would build that up for the main show. So it might be like a different story every month, but you wrestle those same group or the same guys the whole month in a different city. So you could kind of do the same stuff each night because nothing's being taped except for maybe 2 or 3 times, maybe 2 times a month they'll do tapings. Mm-hmm. They'll do their big show, then they'll do one leading up to the big show or something,
Where does, because I know most people now are very familiar with New Japan, you have the access to the streaming, but where does Dragon Gate, and I guess maybe specifically around this time when you were going back, so this is like 5-6 years ago, where do they fit in the overall Japanese structure? Do they hit the small towns? Do they hit the region that isn't covered by others?
Well, a lot of the New Japan stuff is centered around Tokyo. Mm-hmm. A lot of their stuff is centered around Tokyo, and Dragon Gate was more of a Kobe, which is like 7 hours, 8 hours, about 7 hours more south. So they did more of the Osaka, Kobe, Kyoto area. But as far as like how big of a company they are. At this time, they were still growing. Dragon Gate now, like money wise, I want to say is like number 2 in Japan, next to obviously New Japan because no one's going to beat them. So they're about as good as they're going to get. But at this time, I think they were still growing, and so they were hitting a lot of even when we'd go up north, they'd hit a lot of smaller towns, but it's cool to see them progressively because by the time I stopped going as much, even their smaller towns had bigger crowds and bigger crowds. So it's really cool to see that.
How does their audience, I guess, different than like a New Japan?
Oh, well, their audience is a little more, I don't want to say hip, but they're a little more, I guess, I want to say younger, I guess, because they have a lot of like pretty boys, I guess, rather than just strong, muscular dudes that are going to hit each other. These guys, they have their cool haircuts and they always smell good and their gear always looks nice and they're always in good shape. So it's like 70% girls, like 30% guys, or sometimes they had when near the end I was there, they had a group called the Millennials. It's like Eta and T-Hawk and all these guys. It was their young boys that had just started to get up, and so all the young kids kind of stuck to them. So it was a lot of kids too. So, but it's more modern, I guess. Modern.
But they don't look at it as like a competition in New Japan in any way. Like here, it's like WWE is the big
No, I don't
boy.
think
Everybody
so.
else is just trying to take a piece of what they.
I don't think really any company in Japan is really looked at like that really anymore. At least I don't think. Maybe it does, but I don't get that vibe. I don't get that vibe because I'll go to a New Japan show, or when I was going to the Dragon Gate show and still did a little bit of New Japan stuff, they said, some of them be like, oh yeah, I saw you in Dragon Gate, and I'm like, oh cool, thank you. Or if I'm at Dragon Gate, they're like, I saw the Super Juniors. So I'm like, oh cool, thank you. So they just like wrestling. So, but I don't think New Japan sees Dragon Gate, oh that's a competition with, they just see that's another company.
As a performer, what's the difference between working for like a Dragon Gate and then working for a bigger company like New Japan?
New Japan, although I'm in there with mostly the juniors most of the time, and we still have kind of the match we want to do, it's still not as fast paced as Dragon Gate. And Dragon Gate, again, their tag matches are lucha rules, so if a guy rolls out, another guy can get in. So there's not as many tags. There's still tags, but there's not as many tags. And in New Japan, if I'm in a tag match, we kind of focus on where's the tag, when's the tag, how's the tag, which I kind of like.
Yeah.
I like both styles, but I do like putting the psychology in of all the tags.
But I guess there's a lot more travel involved for a Dragon Gate tour than there would be a New Japan tour.
Yeah, but man, recently, like the Super Junior tour and this past tour, we were traveling, especially the Super Junior tour. I was there for 21 days. No, I was there 20 days, a day shorter than 3 weeks. 20 days, we did 16 shows. And we only had one off day that wasn't a travel day. So we were killing it. So I would say yeah, but I don't know now. New Japan's starting to grow, so not grow, obviously they're the biggest in Japan, but
kind of
they're starting to
expand more.
travel more. I mean,
Are the accommodations different between shows? Like, or one company puts you in better hotels?
oh
or
well,
better-
yeah. Some because Dragon Gate's a real I say independent, but I don't want to say indie because they're not indie. They're independent as much as they do everything within themselves. They set up the ring. They set up the chairs. They do the accounting. They sell the tickets. They do everything. They don't have people to do that for them. So, and then for the New Japan, they just have the money to do that stuff. So Dragon Gate does a lot of stuff themselves. So they'll find a good hotel for the cheapest price. And sometimes, obviously the New Japan hotels are always pretty big. Sometimes you get one that's pretty small just because the town is smaller. But Dragon Gate tries to, I don't want to say penny pinch, but they get the most out of their money in a good way. And I think with New Japan, they just have a bunch of big time sponsors that that's part's not as much as a concern for them.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the sponsors. A lot of times the boys talk about they had to go out after the show because of the sponsor, or they had to go to a club because of the sponsor. And
Yeah,
that's a bigger
and in
part of
Japan, sometimes you don't even want to go, but it's kind of seen as rude. It's rude there to be no. So and it's good to keep them happy because they're the ones that are giving you money to buy these big arenas and these. So sometimes we go. Usually for the most part, it's still a good time. The guys, they want us to go out they just want to see us have fun. They want to see us have a good time. So, but
So it's not like pressure to get drunk to the point where you.
no. It used to. I when I first started going to Japan, I thought I was like, okay, I have to. But then as I got older, that's for one, I just stopped drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So I just grab them. Sometimes I'll like, can I have a water? And they're like, oh, water? Like, you don't want a beer? I'm like, no, water's okay. And they're like, oh, okay, water.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
So they're not insulted if you don't eat the steak at the steakhouse or the.
oh, believe you're gonna eat this steak because it's
Yeah.
delicious. But sometimes I tell them I tried fish. Fish, I'm not a big seafood guy. So I mean, like me, fish, no. And they're like, oh, go. And so they have chicken or beef or something they'll get for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you don't like any fish? We're not a.
I mean, I like tilapia. I like some tuna. I used to eat tuna every day when I was dieting. But like real fishy fish, I just.
That's a big part of the Japanese diet.
Yeah, they.
So is it tougher to eat over there?
No, they have a pretty good. They have these like local convenience, that's a convenient market, like a 7-Eleven or Family Mart or something, that I'll go to. But they also have like 100 yen, kind of like a dollar store.
Mm-hmm.
And I would buy my tuna. I would buy some cereal. I'd buy milk, and I'd buy all that stuff. But I also I used to bring over a lot of stuff when I was there for like a month. I would bring over my own oatmeal, my own protein bars.
Is it to save money or just because you can't find the?
No, they don't really. They have protein and they have stuff over there, but it's not as good. It's just as bare as it can get. And so here, in America, the protein and stuff has the aminos and the glutamine and all that stuff in it, and over there it doesn't really have much.
Is there anything in Japan that you can get that you can't get here that you miss?
They have a little small chain restaurant called Kokoichi Katsu Curry, and it's like a little curry shop, and it is so good. And I wish
It's like fast food, or is it?
it's actually that was a big argument between Pac or Neville and one of our buddies, Wade Fitzgerald. They had a big argument over whether it was fast food or not, because you do go in and there's a menu and you sit and you're like, can I have this and this? Like, all right, you give them the menu and you wait a little bit. So it is kind of like a restaurant, but it's not really a restaurant. It does come quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know if it's a fast food. I don't know if they would consider it fast food or not.
I think fast food, the line is whether you have a server, right? If you don't have a server, it's got to be fast
But
food.
this kind of has a server.
Then it can't be fast food.
Well, see, Pac thought it was fast food, and they had a big argument over it.
Yeah.
And so I don't really. But I would say it's not really fast food because there is a person that sits there and takes your order and brings you some water out and.
I mean, if by that standard, like every Mexican restaurant would be fast food, right? Because the food always comes out quick.
Yeah, that's true.
So you got to draw the line there. It's whether it's a server.
Server or not.
Right?
Okay,
It's-
there you
It's
go.
not even a discussion.
That's the end of it. It's not fast food.
Well, finishing up this discussion on Evolve.
Yeah. Sorry.
So
We
you
went off
kind
on
of you
something
kind of
else.
worked your way up the Evolve chain. You constantly giving title matches and stuff. Do you remember anything specific about your match with Gargano, when at that time we thought was closing up the ECW arena?
Oh yeah. I remember being super excited for that match. Obviously, we thought it was gonna be the last official match with all this other stuff, and it just so happens he said he hurt his back. I think the week before, or the day before, something. And I'm like, dude, are you all right? He's like, no, I'm good. I'm like, are you sure you're okay? He's like, it's just weird. I'm like, okay. But then he said after like the first bump he took, he said his legs just went like numb. I'm like, dude, we can shorten this. He was like, no, let's just try it. I'm like, okay. But poor guy, he went through the whole match. I mean, obviously the match wasn't good, but he went through the whole match not feeling his legs. So I give him super duper props for that.
Wow, I didn't know that. So
Yeah, his something happened. I think he even had surgery. I want to say it's surgery. I don't remember, but he was definitely off for some time because his back was so messed up, and I don't think I would have been like, no, I can't wrestle, but he still did it. So that guy's a champion.
But around that time, Dragon Gate in Japan became basically your primary spot for a good amount of time.
That was like my home. I was there 7 months of the year overall. between like 2010 to 2013. Yeah, that was pretty much my home.
Could you ever see yourself at that time, maybe making Japan a permanent spot, or was this you can do this for a little while, pays the best out of anybody else? Maybe it didn't. I don't know if it did pay the best.
Yeah, it did because I just didn't really spend much money over there.
Mm-hmm.
I got paid per match, and we would have 16.
So it's not a week rate there. It's a
No.
per match.
Yeah, and we'd have 16, 17 matches a month. So, and I wouldn't have to pay for anything except for some food I bought.
In New Japan, you get paid by the week
By the
usually.
week.
Yeah.
And so, but I was like, I could do this for as long as I need to do this. Again, I would have obviously liked to be in the WWE or whatever, but I didn't think I would even have a chance.
Where were you living at that time? Was it like in the dojo or?
Actually, it's pretty cool. We had this place called the Sanctuary, because Dragon Gate had their dojo, which a lot of people stayed, but I stayed at the place where Pac stayed, and before that, Matt Sydal and Jack Evans stayed there. But it was more of just an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
It had a living room. It had 3 bedrooms, a suite bathroom. It had a kitchen. It was like a little apartment.
Now you weren't there when this whole monkey story went down, right?
No, I think I was in there a little bit after that, and that's why I think Dragon Gate was starting to. They were low, and they're starting to just work their way back up because they had a little bit of heat at the time. But now, I think they made their amends, and they took their punishment, and so now I think that's why they're getting popular again because.
You really think that incident set them back then?
I think it set them off on the media, because obviously it was just bad news. So they're a really respectful country, and I think the whole company shaved their heads to say we're sorry, and they did what they needed to do. But it may not have been the sole, but I think it had something to do with it. But now they're killing it, and
Sure.
I couldn't be more proud of them.
Do you think Dragon Gate is basically based on like a trios or a tag, or it's like it's not singles aren't the big thing there.
Actually, they have one of the probably my favorite belt in professional wrestling with the Dreamgate belt.
Mm-hmm.
They're big. They're known for their. I think they're known for their 6-man tags because they're the best 6-man tags you're gonna find in wrestling. But their singles stories are always pretty good, I think, and most people who watch Dragon Gate I think may agree. But that belt is my favorite belt in professional wrestling, and the premise of it is so cool because it's called Open the Freedom Gate belt, and the champion has like a little nameplate that they get to open up in the belt, and they put their nameplate in the belt, and this thing closes, and there's like the small little lock that comes down, and so their name is in this belt, and all the challengers get a key to open that thing up. But if the champion wins, he gets their key and latches it onto his belt like a trophy. So one time Shima had 16 keys all on this belt because he was like, someone needs to beat me. He's like, I'm the best, someone needs to beat me. And he was just running through everybody, me included. And he had 16 keys on his belt, and I think that's a really cool concept. And finally someone who beats him gets to take his nameplate out and puts their nameplate in. That's just a cool feeling, man.
That is. Do you think a 6-man based, like in the Carolinas, it used to be a tag, back in the 70s, it used to be a tag, and I know you're saying that singles is still a big part of it, but most people associate Dragon Gate with the trios.
I think the 6-man is really what sets them apart.
You just wonder why maybe here in the States they don't do it. Maybe it's money because it costs so much money to put 6 guys.
6 guys, that could be it, but I mean, obviously America has a lot of good guys, but I think Dragon Gate, it was really kind of like a Mexican tradition because they're really Mexican based, like Shima, Mochi, Fuji. A lot of their top guys trained in Mexico for years. So it's a more of a Mexican based tradition. Like Lucha Underground has the trios titles.
Right.
It's the American style. It's just not their tradition, I think.
Why do you think the Evolve Dragon Gate relationship fell apart?
Honestly, I just think a couple bad business decisions. I remember one time Shima, there was some visa problems or something. He really he didn't want everybody coming over without visas. He wanted visas for all the Japanese guys. And I don't know if they just didn't have the money or something, but they couldn't do it or something. And I think it happened a couple times. So it's just small things like that started accumulating. and she was just like, oh, well, you can't do it anymore. So I think it's small business decisions after another, that just, because, remember at the beginning it was like Shima, Dragon Kid, Yoshino, Shingo.
Oh, it was the
all
18
these-
or
Yeah, it was like the 18, and then by the end it was like Yosuke, one of their young boys, and that was it. So I think if if USA would have kept bringing over the guys that people wanted to see, like I think they wanted to see Cyber a couple of times, Cyber Kong, they wanted to see him a couple of times, they wanted to see, this guy, that guy, but he would just stick to like Tozawa, Shingo, and then when that stopped doing it, it was like this guy, and I think he should have, I don't know, not really sure.
Working for Evolve, you got to work what we consider now to be like the upper echelons of guys, like on the indies and stuff.
Yeah.
What do you take away from your time with Evolve? Because since then you've gotten to be one of the best performers in like Lucha Underground and New Japan, and I know like everything's like a growth period, but I think it's almost like a stepping stone where you get to work with a different level of talent.
No, yeah, it definitely helped me out, because like I said earlier, that was where I started working really good guys. I worked Eric Cannon and Johnny Gargano, and I was getting in there with, it was Brody Lee and all these guys that just catapulted me, I guess, in the ring, like ability-wise. They taught me a bunch of do's and don'ts, a bunch of things that are better to do here, not here. Along with the Dragon Gate guys teaching me that stuff, I think it just all, and I think actually a big part of it was when I first started going to Dragon Gate. I was talking a lot with Pac, and I was talking about how, nothing in my career I haven't really done much in my career, but he was like, have you ever really taken it seriously? And I was like, no, I guess I really haven't. I was just doing it weekend by weekend. And so I think, honestly, that conversation, I was like, you know what, I need to start taking it seriously. Maybe it could be my career. And so going to Dragon Gate and then coming to Evolve and those guys teaching me some things, rather than it going in one ear out the other, I tried to take it all. And I think once I honestly started trying to learn and not just do my stuff I normally did, is when I started progressing as a wrestler.
Because I remember 6-7 years ago, and maybe even 5, before Ricochet blew up, like, athletically you had everything,
Yeah.
but you were known as like, oh, he's the flippy guy.
Yeah,
He's
100%.
Maybe, he's not, and AR Fox has that kind of same stigma now, I guess, to some extent. Like, everybody says, oh, he's a flippy guy, but he's not really one of the best.
He just got signed to Lucha. He'll be on season 3. I don't know if that's a thing, but he's having some really good matches. But because he was, I think, in that stigma for a little bit, but now watching him, these matches that I've seen, because I haven't really watched a lot of his indie stuff because I haven't been able to, but after watching this stuff, man, he's I even had a match with him, and he's next level. He's starting to get better, I think. But yeah, I definitely was just known as that guy, but I think once I started taking it seriously and actually thinking this could be my career, is when I started progressing.
Now, you said that Ring of Honor was never a goal of yours. You were just kind of going week to week. Was PWG ever a goal of yours? Because I know before you got into PWG, that was almost an area, because it's on the West Coast and everybody on the media is on the East Coast. Like, if you weren't there yet and you went to PWG, you got that rub that basically, good or bad, once you got in with PWG, everybody else was like, oh, he's good enough.
Yeah, no, I remember Chuck Taylor going in, maybe 2010 was one of his first times. And again, he was showing me a bunch of their stuff, and that's where I knew the El Genericos, and I knew the Super Dragons and Human Tornadoes and Jack Evans and all this stuff. And I wanted to be there so bad. I mean, they're so bad. And because Chucky T would just tell me stories about how him and Kenny Omega tagged and they wrestled these guys and they wrestled this, and I'm like, man, that sounds so cool. And I did want to be there so bad, and then one night, just randomly out of the blue, I don't know if someone canceled or couldn't make it or something, Chris Hero calls me up and he's like, hey, would you ever want to wrestle for PWG? And I'm like, obviously yes, 100%. He's like, well, Danny needs a guy. He's like, are you available like this weekend? I'm like, yeah, sure. And I went out there and I wrestled BOLA. It was BOLA.
Right, yeah, BOLA was yours. 2010.
2010, end of 2010. And, or maybe it was like mid, I don't remember. But I wrestled Claudio.
Mm-hmm.
And he took super good care of me, made me look like $1 million. I front flip kicked him in the eye. I'm sorry, Claudio. I had to put ice on it because it was all swollen up afterwards. But he made me look like $1 million. And then I got a please come back chant, and then Danny kept bringing me back, and I kept trying to do my best there. And I think that place also made me like a better, because it really brought out how good is he. Can he get, and well, I wrestled Claudio, and then I wrestled the next night in the 6-man, and the next time I came, I wrestled Generico. So, of course, these two guys are just going to make you look as best as you can.
Sure.
So, and then that's kind of when I kind of took over the mentality of like, Claudio or Generico could literally get in there with anybody and make them look the best that they're going to look. And so I tried to kind of make that a go. Of course, a lot of people is like, let me get in there and look the coolest. My thing is like, I'm going to look cool, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But let's make this guy look cool too, because I know I'm going to look cool. So let's make this guy. And that's what makes the match. When you look good and that guy looks good, it's like, that's what makes a match good,
Sure.
I think. You know, when both guys are doing their best. So those two really taught me, like, if you make each other look good, the match is going to look good.
What makes PWG different than the other indies that are out there?
Honestly, I don't really know. Maybe guys just going 20 minutes over their time limit, maybe? No, I don't know.
Do you get less direction from PWG than you do other promoters?
Yeah, pretty much. You book the match, and it's whatever you guys want to do. If you guys want to go out there and kill it, go out there and kill it. Like, but I don't honestly know. I think it's just
Like as a wrestler, when you go into a place like Evolve and you have Gabe, who's he's got a specific direction in his head, and he'll give you more instruction than someone else will.
Yeah, but no, PWG, it's pretty much just you and whoever's in your match has. I mean, obviously, they'll tell you this guy over, or he'll just kind of give you kind of what he wants, but the rest is up to you. I mean, there's
Does he
really
even give you times?
He does give you times, but
No,
a lot of people, no one ever. I don't get that either. I don't get why no one sticks to their times, but because that's a real. But I think it's just you go there just to have a good time. Whether you're doing slow motion spots, which I think was originally a Chikara thing.
Yeah, it was.
But so like whether you're doing that or you're going out there and you're hitting each other real hard, or you're going out there and you're flying around, I think PWG. It's pretty much just the elite, like, that's, like you said earlier, like, once you go there, you're kind of, okay, he's good enough. But even, like, once you go there, because there's been guys that went there and their first match wasn't that good, and so it has never been brought back. So that first match is very important. If you do good your first match, then you'll probably get brought back. Because and it's not even up to the promoter, like, the fans will tell you, like,
Sure.
After your match, you're getting to this is awesome, please come back. Then he'll be like, all right, bring him back. But you really got to prove yourself too. But I don't know why. I don't.
See,
I think I just caught
as
on.
a fan, I look at it, as a business and as a fan, I look at what they have there. The getting over there means something different than getting over in like the Northeast.
Yeah,
like
it does.
You never hear this match sucks, or you don't
Yeah.
when a guy screws up and
that's the thing.
a move, you don't hear the fans like say anything.
And I
to
think
him.
a lot of it just has to do with the fans, because like there has been stuff where people have messed up before, and the fans, they just appreciate what you're doing in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, all fans do. I'm not saying anything against, but like they just, I don't know, they truly appreciate everything. even some of the easiest things, they still get behind.
And you see if a guy screws up and some
if a guy
drunk guy
screws
says
up,
something, the rest of the crowd
The
almost
rest of the
squashes it.
yeah,
You know?
because they're just there. They want to have a good time, and I want to say 20 to 25, maybe more percent of the fans, mostly are new fans that's never seen wrestling.
Mhm.
Every time I go there, every time there's at least one person that says, "Hey, this is my first time ever watching wrestling. My friend just brought me."
Right.
Every time there's at least one person, and so.
A lot of people say that wrestlers work harder at PWG than other places.
They do.
Do you work harder at a
100%
PWG?
do. And I don't know why.
You don't know why.
I don't. It's just the mentality. You get there, and everyone's like, "Let's just have the best match we can." Although nowadays, I still don't do as much flying at PWG as I used to do everywhere else. I still do more flying there than I do most everywhere else, and I don't know why. But it's like a bug that gets in you, and you just wanna. You have the wrestling bug, because even though you get there and you're tired, sometimes you just say to yourself, "I'm just gonna try to not really take it easy tonight, but I'm just gonna try to not go crazy." But then you just end up going crazy anyways, because it just one idea sounds good, and then this idea sounds good, and then you're like, "Let's just do all those ideas." And so, but the fans are there the whole night. One time I think Claudio and Generica went out. They went out to the ring at like 12:30, 12:45. Was when they were going to, and that's LA time, so that's 3 o'clock in the morning where I'm from.
I used to try to follow on Twitter, like because we're on the East Coast,
Yeah.
and like I get 2 matches in, I'm
He's sleeping. So they're going out at 12:30, and then the fans are still crazy. They're drunk, but they're going crazy, loving it.
You're part of like my favorite entrance of all time.
Me?
Yeah. You
What
and
is
Rich
it?
Swann, Inner City Machine.
Yeah, yes.
I mean, Lionel Richie was never so cool.
There's actually a pretty funny story about that. It was me, Swan, B-Boy, and Callahan. We're on our way to the show, and me and Swan we're trying to pick our entrance music. We don't have entrance music. Because we've tagged in Japan as like World One and all that stuff, but we've never tagged in America, I don't think, at this time. I don't think, at least. And so we're trying to find our entrance music, and we're going through all these songs, and actually Footloose comes on. Never gonna cut loose. And so we're like, "Oh, this is it. We're gonna come out to Footloose," because that song's awesome. And then we keep playing songs, and we're like, "No, this song is it." And like, "No, this song is it." And then we're like, "No, Footloose is still the best one. Footloose is still better." And then Benny's changing the B-Boy's changing the songs, and all of a sudden this song comes on all night long. And then we're like, "What if we come out to this?" And then we were thinking, "No, the entrance is too long. The entrance is too long. They're not gonna." And we're like, "No, let's just try it. Let's just try it and do it." And Sammy's the one that's like, "You guys got to do it. Just try it. Just try it. Just try it." And B-Boy's back, and B-Boy's like, "Yeah, do it." And we said, "Okay." And then we play the song, and then from the very beginning, the fans are sitting there clapping. And I'm like, "This is pretty cool." And they're like, "Let's just wait. Let's just wait. Let's just wait." And then again, the intro is real long. So he's like, "Let's just go. Let's go." So we walk out, and we're thinking, we're like, "This isn't our music." And we're like, "This isn't our music." And the fans are like, "What?" And they're like, "No, this isn't our music." And then all of a sudden it goes, "Oh," no. And then we start dancing. The fans are like, "Oh," and they get with it. And it was just the coolest time. And they were just all there the whole time. And they're clapping and singing all night long. And it was just a cool feeling. I don't know why I don't know why it just caught on so like fire, but.
Yeah, it probably helps when everybody's drunk too in the audience.
No, yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah, I tell a lot of people they watch PWG through DVDs because they're on the West Coast.
Oh yeah, that's how
and
the
it's like,
entrances.
it's like, man, the entrances are so cool. They
Yeah.
have to cut them off on the DVD, but it's like, man, it's such a powerful part of the
And then,
audience. Just
I remember I had watched all of Parks and Recreations. I watched all the seasons, and so I said, next time I come out to PWG, it's gonna be dedicated to Little Sebastian. And if you ever watch Parks and Recreations, there's a little miniature horse called Little Sebastian. And everyone's, "You need to come out to that song. You come out to the song, 5,000 Candles in the Wind." I said, "Okay." And then I came out, and the whole fans are singing, "Bye, bye, Little Sebastian." So the whole fans are singing it. And they're just, again, the fans at PWG are 75% of the reason why it's as popular as it is.
sure.
So thank you guys.
So, one of your big moments at PWG was the 2014 BOLA,
Hmm.
and I didn't know this. So you actually worked through that tournament. You were pretty banged up.
The second night, I'm just an idiot. I had wrestled Chris Sabin was my second round match, and at the very beginning of that match, they're announcing my name, Ricochet, and I started doing windmills. You remember like Jack Evans used to do, and my hamstring pinched a little bit, and I was like, oh, so I stopped, and I'm like, oh, that hurt. I think the fans thought I was kidding, but I was like, no, that kind of hurt. I'm like stretching. And then the next morning, I wrestled the whole match, whatever. The next morning, I wake up and there's like a small bruise on the back of my hamstring. And so I wrestled that whole match. The night 3, I wrestled 3 matches that night. And then that Monday morning, the bruise was like bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next weekend, I had to do Lucha Underground. And that next weekend, it was literally the top to bottom of my hamstring was just
Did you
bruised.
tear it, or was it a pull?
It was, if I didn't tear it, I pulled it to where it almost tore, but the whole back of my hamstring was bruised.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I tore muscle that night. I think I may have, or unless I just pulled it beyond belief, but my whole leg was killing me for those 2 days, killing me.
Do you when you go into BOLA, do they tell you where they expect you to end up at, or do you go in there
Honestly,
blindly?
not really. When you get to PWG, sometimes
I mean, some guys
the
are
matches
booked.
have
Hey, you're only
changed.
booked Friday and Saturday, so you kind of know. But
Oh no, usually I'm
yeah, you're booked
I'm
all
usually
3
booked all
days,
3
but you don't
days.
know if you're going out round 1.
Not really.
No.
Sometimes, even on just a normal day, the card will change 3 times.
Mhm. A
Because
lot of times due to injuries.
sometimes due to injury, sometimes they just like this better, so they'll change it at that day. So we're like, okay, it's cool. But yeah, then I remember they didn't know who was gonna go between me, Roddy, or Gargano. Even the day on the day of, then he still didn't know who was. We were still, this guy should go, this guy. We didn't know, you, me, no. And most everybody they just said, just let Trevor win. He's already, like, he won Best of Super Junior there. He won this, he won that, he won that. Just let him win, like, let him have a great year or something. And I was like, either way, it's fine with me. But I think we convinced him, and then, like, that day of is when I found out. And I was like, this is crazy. It was real crazy for me.
So at this stage, I mean, maybe by the time this thing gets released to most people, BOLA 2016 will already happen. Do you go into it now and you're like, oh man, I hope he doesn't make me work 5 times?
Yes. Yes, every time. Like the next year when I did it, I was so relieved Zach beat me. I was like, thank you so much. Because it was one of the roughest nights I've ever had. I remember me, Gargano, and Roddy doing that match, and afterwards, like, Gargano was puking. I don't know, but like, I wanted to puke. It was literally one of the toughest nights of wrestling.
There's
I've ever
AC,
done.
but usually Larry won't turn it on. It's
Never.
Southern California, late
I don't know
August,
why
early
Larry
September.
never. Larry, why don't you ever turn the air conditioning on? I don't
'Cause
get it.
cuts into beer sales, man. You know that.
But they want air conditioning too. I want it at least. But no, the building is so small. There's almost 400 people in this small building, breathing. It's getting real hot. People are sweaty. It stinks. He won't turn the AC on. I've got to wrestle 5 times a weekend, 3 in one night. They're all singles matches except for one. I tore my hamstring.
A lot of people talk about moving it to a bigger venue, especially, this year they got Cody Rhodes booked,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, let's move bigger venue. It's not moving, I can assure you that.
I don't think it will ever move.
But as a wrestler, do you think that they would be as successful if they moved to a bigger building?
I think if he did one weekend a year, like say it's BOLA, or even if he did like one all-star weekend, but one weekend a year at a big building, even like get a medium-sized building and see if that fills up. And the next year try a bigger one too. But I think if he did, just to make one of them super special, say it is BOLA or something, if he could even just do one night, I think just make it that one show special or something,
Right.
But like, was that one Wrestle King? No, was it a Wrestle Reunion or something? They did
Yeah, I was
the
gonna
Kurt Russell
mention.
reunion or
So
something?
Wrestle Reunion was my show,
Yeah.
and so I take responsibility for why PWG never moves. because these Kurt Rush reunion lineups were like super loaded. He brought in like big name talent where he didn't always do that except for an All-Star Weekend. And I remember his feedback was, "This isn't a real PWG show."
Yeah, that's people. That's one of their complaints. But I think, I think if he just did one a year, I think to try to make it special, it would be cool. I think it would be cool. But he really likes that building, and again, a lot of the fans.
I love that building too, except while I'm in it. While I'm in it, I hate it.
It's so
But
hot.
looking back on it, it's almost like a religious experience, especially like a BOLA weekend,
Yeah.
where you lose 20 pounds of water weight from sweating so
You
bad,
do.
and you smell the guy next to you.
Everything's it's so, and especially those weekends because he fits max capacity in that building.
Mm-hmm.
As many as they're legally allowed to fit in that building, he will fit it. And it just, again, it's so cool because the fans are the best, but it's so hot and it's so muggy. It's humid and hard to breathe, and we got to go out there and wrestle for potentially 20 minutes.
The other thing I love about it is it constantly changes. Like I remember for a while there, the whole schedule was around Generico's schedule. Like he didn't want to have a show without Generico.
It was like it went from like Generico to like around Steam's
Steam.
schedule to around Buck's schedule. One time he did 4 shows around my schedule, just in like a certain. So like he does. Who else was it? There's one, I think Drake one time, Drake or Sammy. Maybe it's Cole. One, but he had to go around their schedule. Like, but yeah, it's pretty cool. He does that.
Um, BOLA 2016. Like, who's going to win? And I'm going to disqualify you because he's never had a guy win it twice.
I know. I
So-
want to be that guy.
So tell us the mindset of a guy that you've known for 6 years now and how he books. Like, why is BOLA different than all the other tournaments?
I think because he really just puts in the money and he gets like the best guys in the industry, like the indie industry, because a lot of the tournaments will have 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 good guys. I say good guys, you know what I mean, like established. I don't mean good. I mean established names, and he makes the whole. Well, how many are there? How many entrants?
24.
20, yeah, 24. He gets all of them like as big as names as he can get. Like he really puts in. He pays a lot of money for these shows. Although he makes it back, but he like puts in the work. And I'm not saying everyone else doesn't, but this is one I've seen him, and I've helped him with it. So I know he puts in the work. And again, I think just the name Pro Wrestling Guerrilla has such a following now that he can do that, I guess.
So does the winner of this year's BOLA, is it some guy that needs to make a name? Is it a reward for a guy that's been doing good business?
That's I don't know.
Is it an outsider that has never competed before and this is his first BOLA?
Probably not.
Probably
I wouldn't
not.
say that because usually he likes to know you can go, I guess.
See, I thought originally it might be Osprey, but after he's had the Super Junior run with New Japan, I was thinking he's going to go in a different direction.
Yeah, I don't. It could be him. I don't think it will be, but it might even be like.
I mean,
I have no clue.
Turn the
Turn
cameras
them
on.
But
Make a little money on the side.
I'm still. He hasn't announced all of them, has he?
By the time this thing comes out,
Okay.
it might have already
So
happened.
I don't know who's all in it still. So maybe it's me. Maybe I'll be the first 2 times.
Yeah, you think? You gonna lobby for that? You want 5? You want 5
Yeah.
single matches?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. It literally could be anybody on the roster, though. That's the cool thing about PWG, and just any show in general. You could switch the first match with the main event, and it would still be awesome. You could switch the one before intermission with the main event, and it's still going to be awesome. You could switch any match in the card, and it's still going to be an awesome show.
Absolutely.
That's one pretty cool thing about it.
So let's talk about New Japan. Let's go back to like the first time you got called to go to New Japan and maybe what it meant to you. I mean, New Japan, as most people know, is like the biggest company in Japan.
Yeah.
They use more, I guess, Americans and outsiders than most.
Yeah.
It's, your first time, I think, was 2013?
13 was the Super Junior.
So who called you up and says, hey, we want you to work for New Japan?
No, and Mochizuki and Shima told me. They said, I remember them saying, maybe you this year, Super Juniors. I'm like, what? Because Pac did the one 2012. And then obviously he got called up, so.
So it's like Dragon Gate sending one of their guys
Yeah.
to.
And so they said, because Yamato's done it before, BB Hulk's done it, I think, before. A couple of guys have done it. This year, Eita, he's in the Super J Cup that they're doing, so that's pretty cool. But I remember them telling me, yeah, you this year, maybe Super Junior. And I just thinking, I hope so, because I remember watching that when I was younger. Chuck Taylor, for one, showing me, it was VHS's, like, Super Junior, Chris Benoit and the Super Junior, Eddie Guerrero and the Super Junior, so I just thought it would be really cool. And then when I went there, it was really weird because I'm just used to the Dragon Gate audience, and so I didn't think the New Japan audience would really know me because they're just such a bigger scale at the time. And it was pretty cool because I was pretty receptive at the time, so it was pretty cool seeing that first time there and being welcomed as much as I was.
Bigger venues?
Their big shows, yeah, like Dragon Gate, they do like one big show a month. They'll do one, boom, boom, boom. But New Japan will do 2 or 3 a month, which is just was crazy to me at the time too. So, but I mean, even Dragon Gate and New Japan, they'll run like the smaller venues, but they'll be set up differently because New Japan will have not big entrance, but a little bit bigger entrance, and they have guardrails and they have this and that. So it was pretty cool, a different environment for sure.
What are your memories of the 2013 tournament, the first tour you did?
I remember the first match I did not the first match, but the first one in Cork, and I had to wrestle Trent Beretta, and they wanted me to do a double moonsault that night because they hyped it up in like, maybe that's why I was so well received, because they were hyping up it was me, they were hyping me up for the double moonsault and all this stuff, #1 high flyer, all this stuff, so I think the fans were really excited to see that. And so he wanted me to do the double moonsault, but I think I had food poisoning because 2 days before, a day or two before, I just was in bed all day. I couldn't eat anything without throwing up. I was in the bathroom constantly.
Fish, right? That's what.
I don't even know if it was fish. I don't know what it was. I forgot what it was, but I just remember feeling awful. And this was just 2 days after that, so I'm still nauseous a little bit. I'm not eating very healthily. And so they're like, today, can you do the double moonsault? I'm like, this is my first time in New Japan. I can't say no. I'm like, yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's okay. He was like, it's okay. I'm like, yeah, no problem. Just thinking in my head, no, this sucks. I don't want to do it. And then Trent knows I'm feeling sick. And then it's that time, and he goes, you ready, man? I'm like, I think so. He goes, you think so? And as I'm climbing up the ropes, he goes, oh, man. So he's sitting down there not knowing what's about to happen, and I end up doing it, and it's one of my better ones I've done. And I just remember being so relieved. And then after that, it was not easy sailing, but I knew I didn't have to do it anymore. So
they kind of took care of you that first tournament. I mean, they could have put you as the guy that is at the bottom of the bracket.
yeah, no, they
loses
took real
all the
good care of me. And
matches.
even like the year before, I think Ben went to either the semifinals or the finals with Devitt. So Ben Pack, he went. So they took real good care of me, and then that all happened. But then I remember the next year, Mochizuki and Shima, he's like, yeah, you this year, Super Junior. I was like, oh, cool, perfect. And then Mochizuki, he said, maybe you over. I'm like, like maybe joke. He's like, no, real. I'm like, I don't think so. Until it got closer and closer, and then I found out. I was like, oh, why?
So you knew before the start of the 2014 tournament the result? I mean,
Yeah, well, at least they told me, but I thought they were 100% joking with me.
You know, it's even odder is you weren't a New Japan regular.
And that's
so
why
to put that kind of
I
confidence in
don't
you.
know what happened. And I remember I was Dragon Gate champion at the time, the Dream Gate champion. So I thought maybe that's why, because they didn't want me losing.
Protect you a little
But
bit.
they took the belt off me before the tournament started.
Their insurance policy, right?
Yeah, man, you know, so, but I remember saying, like, they knew I was going to win the tournament, so, I don't, so when they took the belt off me, I was like, maybe that's not, obviously that's not why, so, I don't know, maybe it's just New Japan's decision, you know, so, I thought that was really cool that they thought of me in that way to put me in that position, so, because at first I thought it was just because I was the champion for Dragon Gate.
So did you go through the tournament thinking like, no, this isn't, they're really not putting me over, this really isn't?
Well, at least until, like, when I got there.
Yeah.
Once I got there and talked to those guys and they let me know the rundown, then I was like, man, like, it was just a cool feeling. Because, like I said, I remember watching this and watching guys that I look up to, literally, all those guys, Jericho, all those guys, so.
As much as you've worked for New Japan in the last couple of years, you've never been like, I mean, some guys have like their primary contract is New Japan. You've never worked like with them being your primary contract, right?
No, it's always just been tour by tour, like handshake deal. They said, are you available here to here? Are you available here? I'm like, yeah, like whenever you guys need me, I can be available, you know, because obviously people will ask me in America, are you booked this date? I'm like, I don't know, I have to check with New Japan. Even though I'm not contracted with them, I still kind of put them first priority.
Is it just because of pay, or is it because you know that they've been good to you and it's
Not even because of pay. I think, because sometimes if I have like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday show and I get booked my per match rate, and I'll have to go to New Japan for one match and come back, I would have got paid much more for the triple night show than I would for New Japan. So I think it's like they've been good to me. They've done well by me. They respect me. I respect them, and I think again, to get respect, you got to give it. So it's one of those kind of things.
you know, and now we see this with NXT, but for like the last probably 2 years, with maybe we'll call it the run of the Bullet Club, New Japan really has been like the place if you want to be the hip guy.
Yeah, and it's again I think it does have a lot to do with the Bullet Club, even because I remember when Ferg first started it just caught on really well with Ferg, Tama, Fale, and Anderson. Those guys made a cool stable, and it was real cool. And then once the Bucks got in there, they helped it out tremendously. And within with like the shirt stuff, because they were known for selling merch. And then once they started doing the Bullet Club stuff, they started branching out. And
There's a question. So they were selling the shirts in Japan the same way they do at all the indies?
no, they weren't. No, but Japan was selling them, but they would sell them when they come to America.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I think it really helped out, and New Japan started being like a cool place to be. But then even the Japanese guys, you have your Makabe's, he's a cool dude. Tanahashi's the coolest dude ever. Okada's weird. Okada, when you're in the back, he's the goofiest, weirdest guy ever. He's like, who making these faces, but as soon as he walks through the curtain, he's a cool dude, and he's doing Rainmaker pose. It's cool how he does that. But in the ring, the fans perceive him as the coolest guy ever, and he looks like the coolest guy ever. Naito's a cool dude. So even like the Japanese guys are all, Ishii's the coolest dude ever.
In the '80s and even in the '90s, they had the Gaijin and they had the Japanese,
Yeah.
and they work together, but I don't think they socialize much. At least the stories that we hear.
Yeah.
Is it more of a group now, or does it still?
Yeah, I remember my first time going to New Japan, being in the backstage. I saw Tanahashi, he's like the guy. He's Japanese John Cena. He's the man. And he could have been the biggest jerk to me if he wanted to be. Because for one, I was a foreigner. For two, I was a Dragon Gate guy. Just a bunch of different reasons. And he like comes up to me. He's like, "Oh, hey." He's like, "You best high fly. I'm like, oh God, thank you so much, because he was just so nice immediately, and he didn't even have to be. But all their guys were that way. Kushida, all these guys were just so nice initially, and even like when we go to the shows nowadays, me and this guy, we all have our little jokes with each other. So like Okada walks around. At first it was always Nick, but now whenever Nick's not there, he just starts grabbing my gear and he's like putting my gear on. I'm like, Okada, no! Like he doesn't help you take it off. You like, had to take it off of him, and so it's really cool. And but yeah, we all socialize and have fun, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
How about the Bucks? I find them so interesting because
There are some interesting guys. I love like the stories they tell me are just, man, they're the best.
and I mean, this is, I'm stroking your ego a little bit here, but it's true. Like I think you and the Bucks are like maybe right now the only guys that could kind of like choose wherever they want to go in the world. I mean, you could make a choice based on money. You can make a choice based on like where it's cool to be. I mean, you can go if you want to hustle and take the most. I mean, you can make as much money as you want to make right now. You guys are in your prime.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
But I mean, I wonder what goes into making a decision. I know you've cut back your indies a lot, mainly because you're a Lucha Underground schedule in New Japan. But I just wonder what goes on in your mind because I know you have a kid. I know
Yeah.
Does both Nick and Matt have kids?
I think they both have
I
two.
know one has two.
Okay, maybe Matt has two.
Matt has two.
The Nick has one, yeah.
Okay. I'm just wondering like what goes into your mind like when you make decisions about where you choose to work when you do have all the options.
For them, I think it's 100% like money. And obviously now I think they're on exclusive with Ring of Honor and New Japan only. So they don't do any, except for PWG, they don't do any bookings in America.
Right.
They can do whatever they want outside, but so they're good. But and mine was I haven't really done any indies in months because the days I'm home from Lucha, New Japan's like, hey, can you come over? So I'm like, all right, cool. And then I come home literally sometimes for one day and then leave the next day. Come home, leave the next day.
Is it just because it's easier to kind of confine it to two promoters? Because if you want to hustle,
I don't have any time. I don't have any time. I come home Monday. I'm home I get home Monday at 9:00. I'm home Tuesday. Leave Wednesday for Lucha. Then one time I left for Lucha. I was there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Left Monday for New Japan. Was there for a week. I don't have time. So, but mine is because I'm going to Australia at the end of this month. I'm going to Chile. I had a booking in Italy, but I think I have to go to New Japan. So there's some countries I haven't been yet that I really want to go.
So are you choosing those based on the fact that you want to go to those destinations? Like you want to go to Australia, you want to go to Chile?
Of. But
because I'm sure if someone wants to book you in Lodi, New Jersey, I mean there's an opportunity, but it's not as sexy as maybe Santiago, Chile, right?
No, yeah. So I've never, and I think a bunch of my boys are like Pentagon's there. I think the Bucks are actually there. So that's a cool place I want to go. I've never been to Australia, and I hear the wrestling's really good, but I hear the scenery's also just as good. So I want to go see koala bears and I want to see kangaroos, And I've never been to Italy. I would like to go there. But I think now that I have a little bit of time open, I'm going to try to. And also, I've been so busy since maybe March that I'm trying to take some time off. I was supposed to take some time off this month, but I got a show like on the 22nd. I got August at the end of the month. Not August, Australia at the end of the month. And then me and Tessa are driving from Florida up to Kentucky to get my son to fly back down to Florida to spend like a whole week doing stuff. So I say I'm not wrestling, but I'm still so busy this month.
Do you have a mentality like you could be traveling all the time. You could be booked 4 nights a week if you want. Like there's some point you have to say I need some personal time.
100%.
But I can't take. It's a debate because I don't know if I can ever say no to the money, thinking that maybe it's not going to be there.
It's very hard. It's hard to say no because actually I think New Japan wanted me this month and Dragon Gate wanted me this month too. But I was like, I have to. For one, I need to see my son. I miss him more than I think he misses me. But I need to see him. I need to see my mom. I want to see my mom. I want to, I haven't seen freaking Tessa more than 2 days since March.
Yeah, you got FaceTime for that.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not the same, So I haven't seen her. So I said I need to take some time in July to just be Trevor.
I remember having the conversation with the Bucks when they chose to go to Ring of Honor, and it was like you could tell that they were going so fast. You know,
Yeah.
there were promotions that were literally creating shows on Sundays because they didn't have
Yeah.
the Friday or Saturday, and like you could just kind of see that they were just too worn out. They had,
Yeah,
they
no,
had to
that-
slow down.
That's some
Do you
stuff.
feel that way sometimes?
Oh, 100%. Like I said earlier, I was talking about jet lag. I feel like I'm just always jet lagged. I feel like I'm always like sleeping. Sometimes we're like, okay, we're gonna wake up at 9 o'clock. We're gonna eat. We're gonna go to the gym, and I can't move. I'm sitting there. Luckily, Tesla, she'll let me sleep. Like I appreciate that. She'll just let me sleep. But sometimes I'm gonna get up in the morning. I'm gonna eat breakfast. I'm gonna go work out, and I just can't because can't move.
I was going to save her for the end, but you brought her up a couple of times. Tessa, you know, she's our golden girl too because like she started here at High Spots in the training facility, and you took her away from us. But you know, isn't it nice to have a partner that kind of has like the same goals?
No, it's awesome because honestly, like sometimes when I'm home, like especially if I'm only home for like 2 days, I'm not gonna go to the gym. I'm not gonna do it. But she'll make me go, which is good because afterwards I feel great. But on the way there, I just hate. I'm like, I don't want to go. I don't want to work out. I don't want to do this. I feel awful. I don't want to do it. But then after, I feel great because I'm glad we did it.
Sure.
And so she helps me out a lot. She cooks for me. Like she made me protein donuts. They're like gluten free, sugar free.
That sounds awful.
No, they were delicious. They were good. They were so good. And so she does stuff like that all the time, and it's so cool. But
So was it more intimidating to meet her father Tully or her stepfather Magnum?
actually, I met Magnum first, and he's just the coolest guy. Like he'll joke, and like he's a really cool guy. We sat down last night just talking about stuff, life. But I remember meeting Tully because obviously he's more stern and strict.
You met him for the first time in Dallas?
I think yes. And so I was expecting. That's what I was expecting. I was expecting like the 411, like asking me questions and all this stuff. But we met him. We went and ate breakfast. I think really it was the first time and he was like super cool and like he was chill. He makes like he's one of those guys like you can tell he's like strict and stern, but he'll make like a joke and he's like, you know, like it's really cool. He's just a cool guy and like but it was I thought it was gonna be more, but then like I got to really talk to him and he took me to see, was it his uncle? Was it his uncle we went to go see? Great uncle. And I thought that was pretty cool. Like meeting his upper family is pretty cool. Like to get to see him and know him.
Tully still scares the shit out of me.
He's still like I still get that feeling. He's better not mess with me.
All right, well let's move it on here. I could talk to you all day, but let's talk about Lucha Underground.
Yeah.
So you took a chance. A lot of guys were contacted, and they're like, I
That
don't
was
know.
that guy.
Yeah, I know Joey's kicking himself for missing out on season 1, and
Yeah.
but, you know, and it could have gone either way. It could have been a real disaster, or it could have been.
And Joey made a good point. He said, I think it was at the WrestleCon convention. He said, you know, he was a part of. I think he's a part of that Wrestling Society X. That, you know, that was not very good.
Yeah, that was worst case scenario.
That was worst case scenario. Yeah, and that's, you know, so I could see where he's hesitant.
But you know, it also this is the business side, but the way they were trying to lock people up, the contracts were very controlling.
Yes.
And if they wanted to enforce them as literal as they were, you weren't going anywhere for anybody.
Yeah.
No indies, no nothing, and if they didn't have you working, I mean, you were kind of screwed. And it was kind of weird because it was a non-wrestling company signing you to like almost like movie contracts.
Yeah. And well, that's something that we had to make clear. Like I told him, I still had to do like the indies and Japanese stuff, and that's something that they came into. But I remember Conan contacted me for maybe like a full year, asking me about this new Lucha Underground. He's like, we got Robert Rodriguez and Mark Burnett. He's like, those are big names, blah, blah, all this other stuff. And I just had Wrestling Society X in my head. I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I do not want to do it. And forever, I just kept saying no. And even when I got to talking to Conan, he was like, I bet you thought I was just this crazy guy calling you every other day asking about this. And he's like, I bet you told me just to shut up in your mind so many times. And I was like, you're totally right, because I did. Because I just didn't want to hear it. But he finally talked me into it, and talked me into the idea of it, I guess. And then one time I was going to fly out for PWG, and they said, hey, can we come pick you up at your hotel and bring you on set and show you what we have? I said, sure. And actually, it was me and Rich Swan before he even, signed anything. It was just me and him, because they were actually looking at him too. But he had both deals going up in there. Anyways, so we get there, and I'm looking at the ring. I'm looking at Dario's office, the cool stairway. I'm looking at all this, and he's telling me about it, hyping it up, and it does sound really cool. And I'm like, man, this sounds awesome. It looks awesome. I'm still hesitant about it though, but it looks awesome. And then I think like a month later, he's like, well, let one of our guys come pick you up, bring you to the Univision building, and we'll give you a rundown of the whole show. So they brought me to the Vision and Univision. He had these little cards, like, not cards, but like papers with, it was like Puma and Cuerno and Azteca and Cobra Moon at the time, or Viper Moon at the time, and it had all the layout of what their characters wanted to look like. The Prince Puma with the thing, and had all this stuff, but drawn like a comic book style.
Mm-hmm.
And then they showed me this cool manga that they were going to put out, and he told me about the whole 7 Aztec tribes and about what they want to do, and it sounded cool. It looked cool, and I was still a little hesitant though. And so they're still trying to get me to do it, and I think it's like a Wednesday night. It's like 8 o'clock at night, and they want me to fly out Thursday morning to start filming stuff, because that's when they want to start filming. And I'm still like, I don't know. And so we finally come to an agreement, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. I'll take a chance. And we came to an agreement.
But it was never about money, right? It was about...
It wasn't about money. No, they were planning on paying me a good amount of money. It was just
I mean, listen, I know the numbers, okay?
I just wasn't.
So it was really good.
I just wasn't.
So I'm just wondering, like, you knew what the numbers were.
Yeah.
They were much better at that time.
And that's what I said. I was telling them it would have to be in order, because if something happens to this and it just completely craps out and it ruins my image or whatever or something for the WWE, and they're like, oh, we don't want that guy. He was part of that.
Right.
And so I was like, it would have to be something to, at least I can make money at this now. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was thinking at the time. And we did that, but I took a chance, and the first day they sent me the email with my contract or whatever, and I had my buddy look over it. And then I did it. They sent me my flight. I literally packed that night, flew out the next morning. We went into some desert place. It was so hot. I put on the whole Puma outfit, and it was just really cool. We were filming just cool like drone scenes and filming just me walking through the desert all cool. And it was just really cool. And then since that day, it got cooler, and then it got cooler, and it got cooler. And it was just the coolest thing I've been a part of so far.
So, they just wrapped up season 3, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm trying to think where we are right now. We're 3/4 of the way through season 2 in terms of...
No, we're pretty much finished. Last night was Ultima Lucha Dos Part 1.
See, and the reason I don't know, and this is what I was going to say, was the really coolest part about Lucha Underground is all the other wrestling shows, I play everything in my DVR.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everybody else does, If I don't get to watch Raw within like 24 hours, I just delete it.
Yeah.
TNA I just delete before I ever watch. But, with Lucha Underground, because it's more like a TV show, it really doesn't matter like when you watch it.
It primarily is a TV show.
So how is that different for you as a wrestler? Do you just go in there and it's the same thing?
No, I mean it's much, because Lucha, for those who don't know, is their first directive is primarily a TV show, a TV drama about a wrestling company. Mm-hmm. And then they add the wrestling. The wrestling is a big part of it, but it's primarily a TV show first. It's not a wrestling show on television. So the days we film, the shows are the Saturday and Sundays. Those are just like any other show day. We get there, we well, they have rehearsals. They'll go over like stuff in the match that they want to get, whether it's for story or if you have some big spot you want to get, they'll know. Boom, boom, boom. They'll have rehearsals for that stuff. But then the rest of it's just like us, any normal wrestling show day. But they'll fly us out there on a Thursday or Friday, and that's when we'll film the vignettes, the scenes in between, and that is more of like, I guess, like a movie day. We'll get there super early, and they have their crew there, and we get a script just like that right there, and we'll have to read our lines and memorize our lines, and we'll go that day, and we'll film a scene a couple of times. Sometimes, one time, me and Conan, we were doing it like first take every time. First take, they're like, "No, that's great, first take." And so, obviously, I wasn't talking at the time. Conan was doing all the talking, but he was going around, "Yeah, we hit ours first take." Like Carly Katrina.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Carly, you gonna hit yours first take?" He's like, "I bet you won't hit it first take." And then, surely enough, she gets up there and she messes up. He's like, "Ah!" He does it with Phantasma, all these other guys. So, but those are pretty fun. But those are the days that are more challenging for me at the beginning because just the movies and filming it twice, and they have like a lighting thing, and everything is so super professional, and it's actually really cool. It's something different.
The in-ring stuff, is it any different for you than it is like finding like, hey, find the hard camera, or is it?
No, I know I know they're two hard cams, and I know all their camera guys. Like I know they have certain positions they stick in, and so especially after we go through rehearsals, you know. But that's pretty much that's the easy part of it, really.
Do you go back and watch the episodes? Like, I mean, you probably don't go back and watch all your matches. Like,
Actually, nowadays, I'll watch one of my matches 100 times, because each time I can find something small that I can do differently to make it. Something like, oh, why'd you do that? Why would you do that? Like, why would you do that right there? Like, I'll go back and try to find a couple things that I can do differently in each match. I know a lot of guys don't like watching their own matches, but I feel it's a good way to learn, to pick yourself apart. Again, because you're your own worst critic.
sure.
So you're going to pick everything apart to the worst degree. And, you know, and so you try to learn off that. But I just like going back because I don't get to see a lot of the other people's vignettes,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I like going back and watching Ray's vignettes or Phoenix or Cage. Cage always has pretty cool vignettes he's doing. So I like watching that part.
Have you found any difficulty? They use a lot of guys from Mexico, and I know the styles are a little different. It seems like they've had a more successful blending of the two than really anywhere else. For years in the U.S., I mean, you really didn't have a lot of the luchador Mexicans
Yeah.
guys working the good American guys, and that's kind of what makes it attractive as a wrestling fan,
Yeah.
to kind of see how they mesh.
And that's actually, we had a big meeting because if anyone that knows natural, pure lucha libre, there's really not much psychology to it. It's just acrobatics, cool feats, cool flips, like. But so I remember them getting us all together and being like, I know we want this to be as pure lucha as possible, but it's on American TV, so it's a lot of American audience is going to see it, so it has to have that American psychology to it too, and that's where a lot of us, me, Cage, Morrison, all of us have to, because all those Mexican, like, they're so good, all of them, Phoenix, Pentagon, Drago, all those guys are so good, and even I think a lot of the newer ones, they get the psychology part of it a little more. So, but we have to add, they'll make a spot and you're like, oh, that's good, but we need some time right here. So we'll try to put our two together to make it as best as we can. And so that's.
So do you get a lot more direction for like a Lucha Underground match than you would like a New Japan or obviously a PWG match? Or do they kind of let you do your own thing?
They let us do as much of our own thing as they can. They'll let us know if we have something planned. They're like, oh, you can't do that because of something. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's fine. We'll switch it. But for the most part, we'll run down the match, and they're like, okay, that's good, that's great, it's perfect. So, I mean, they let us do our own thing as much as they can.
I was wondering, like the Aztec Warfare matches. I mean, they do a really great job blending.
That's all us.
Yeah.
They'll tell us the
'Cause
orders.
there's so many
that come
different
out.
guys involved, and they tie all the storylines
Yeah.
together, and there's so much. It's
Well,
almost
like I said, that's all them. They'll plan like the order, the eliminations, and all that stuff. But all the stuff in between. I remember the first one was such a headache calling. The second one was a little better, but the first one was a headache because the second one, me and Cage, were like, all right, guys, come on, let's get this down. Because the first one, everyone was just everywhere. And the second one, we're like, come on, let's do this. Me and Cage were kind of like wrangling them all in, getting everyone together. But those matches were a headache. Because you have 20 different people, 20 different ideas, and they all think their idea is the best idea. And it's like, no, that's not a good idea. Let's do this, you know. So those were a headache.
Do you think, and I mean, obviously Ray, I know you love Ray,
Oh, he's the
but
man.
you had like Ray and Del Rio, and like you had some real big time personalities come in there with, you know, maybe with their WWE backgrounds and stuff. Did that change anything, or were they just part of the team? Or?
It didn't really change much. Del Rio, he was a good leader, but I mean, he wasn't as social as like Ray was. Like Del Rio, he did his own thing most of the time, so I didn't really get to even really talk to him that much. But when Ray got there, he's a great leader, and he's just the coolest guy ever. He doesn't try to be the guy. I'm the WWE guy. I'm right. If you're talking over a match and your idea's better, he's like, no, that's much better. Let's do that, or stuff like that. He's just down for, because you know a lot of those guys, they don't want to go all out. You know, they've already made their money. They've already done their thing. But Ray will, he'll do it all. If he thinks he can do it, he'll go and do it, you know. And that's what I respect, that he, to this day, gets in there and will go his hardest for you if you go your hardest for him.
Sure. And
that's something that I respect completely.
do you wish you would have ever gotten to do Lucha Underground, or you had your mask even at the end of season 3? I mean, do you ever wish they maybe changed your role, unmasked you, or?
Honestly, I think if I could just be Ricochet there, like, I love the Puma character. The Puma character's great, and I think, like, he, like, you know, he stands for hope, and he's, you know, the good guy. I think it's great. But if they would have let me just, I don't know, I kind of feel like, because of course Morrison's going to love it, and Helico, Cage, PJ, Fox, Joey Ryan, like all those guys love it because they just themselves, you know. And although I loved it, I don't think I could have loved it to my full potential if I could have just been myself, you know. And of course, someone has to be Puma, and I get that, and I'm glad they put me in that position. I'm glad because they didn't have anyone else in line after, like, who can be Puma. We got this guy could be Puma. Conan, he was like, we need this guy. We don't need anyone else. Get everyone else.
I know a
We
lot
need
of it was
this guy.
Conan, but you know, a lot of people were like, "Listen, if we're really going to make this successful, you're the guy we need leading us." And Puma was the big character
Well,
of season 1.
Conan was a big part because he brought a couple of guys to he came to a PWG show with one of the writers. He came to a couple of shows with some of the head guys, and like, we need this guy. And they were like, yeah, we need that guy. And so they didn't have anyone else in line to be the Puma character, and I think that is insane that they would put.
So if you tell them no, Puma, we don't see Pumas, in your opinion. They had Puma for you.
Yeah, they had the character, they just didn't know who they were going to put in that spot. And then Conan's like, I know a guy. And they brought him to the shows, and they're like, you're right, we need that guy. And so I think that's what they were trying. They did their best to get me, and I finally came around, and I'm so glad they did.
Is there any negative to working Lucha Underground for you? Is it?
At first, scheduling was the worst. The first season, like, because I remember I was supposed to do the 2015 Super Junior, because they were supposed to be off at that time, and I was like, can I do this? I'm like, yeah, you can do it. And I was like, cool. So I told them I could do it, and then they're like, no, we're gonna start filming that weekend. So like, so you can't do it. I'm like, all right. So I had to call or email New Japan and be like, I can't do it. And then literally a month, or maybe like 3 weeks to a month before the Super Junior was supposed to start, they had a big meeting, and they said, all right, well, we're not gonna film now, so sorry, if you guys need to find bookings, you can. And then they tell me, hey, if you need to get that booking, you can do it. I'm like, well, I can't do it now. It's literally in 3 weeks. And that made me so angry, because honestly, I think I was supposed to win that Super Junior too, 2015, back to back. I think I was supposed to win that one. So I was so mad, and I remember like wanting to quit because that's something money can't buy. That's something, you know, I really wanted, and they just took it away, and so I was real upset. And then they said, okay, well, we're gonna start filming here, and then so I wouldn't book any shows. Then that time started coming. They're like, okay, we're gonna book here, and I'm like, okay, so like, no, we're gonna book here. And I'm like, if you guys do that again,
the lack of
quitting.
a clear schedule cost you money and
Yeah,
opportunities.
and so it happened like 3 times. I was like, all right, if it happens again, I'm done. I'm quitting. and then they were like, okay,
You just pretty much described the TNA issue, where they have a
maybe.
they have a TV set and they tell everybody no, you can't take other bookings, and then all of a sudden they change the date on you,
Yeah.
and so people who think that they're going to TNA
But
and it's going to help them financially, it ends up in the end it's not
and
so much the case.
it happened, and I was like, if it happens again, I'm done. And they were like, okay, we understand. But then it came, and January is when they said, and so we started in January. Or no, November. We started in November. We did 2 weekends in November, 1 in December, and then January of this year. Actually, it was just like, bam, 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 each weekend, which was really cool. And then we started up again. I want to say late March or mid-March or something.
Mhm.
So that season started up mid-March. So since then, it's been great.
And
Between that and New Japan.
the spoilers, end of season 3, they've kind of written your character where if you're done with Lucha Underground, it would make sense on TV, and if you're not done, it would be a nice twist.
Yeah,
So,
we've
so I
done
know
really
a lot
good.
of the discussion is,
We've
hey,
done really
is
good.
Ricochet done? Is he not done?
That's it's, I guess something you guys are gonna have to find out. But I think it's gonna be really good. I think this season in general, season 3, just match quality, I think is the best season so far. The stories are obviously really good, but I think match quality wise, because now we have Fox, Killshot Strickland. This season he's been doing really well. AR Fox. We have all these guys now that are. The stories are really well, but the match quality is some of the better matches I've seen. So I think it's gonna be. John Morrison's been killing, or Mundo. I'm sorry, Johnny Mundo. He's been killing it. Mil Muertes is my MVP 3 seasons running.
Really?
I think he's one of my, like, Kenny Omega, Kyle O'Reilly, Mil Muertes are my 3 favorites to watch.
Wow. Wouldn't have thought Mil Muertes would have been up there.
He's just his presence, like, Brian Cage is obviously the biggest guy on the show, but when you see Mil Muertes like on TV, you think he's a truck. He just knows how to make himself big, and each match he's like Jason Voorhees. He just keeps coming. You try to stop him, and he just keeps coming. And pretty much, even if it's Brian Cage or even if it's me, the story of like a match with Mil is you're just trying to stop him. Even when he wrestled with Matanza, the story was stop Mil from destroying everything, and then that factored into just his mind for the business is. He's so good to watch. I love watching any match he's in.
Well, maybe wrapping up Lucha Underground, I don't want to date this interview, but one of the big social media storms that you caused this summer was your match with Osprey.
Yeah.
It's kind of played out, and I know you've talked about this a few times, but I was actually kind of surprised. I watched the match. I was kind of surprised it caused so much of a stir because, like, I've seen you guys work before, and I really didn't feel like that match was
Much different, right?
I didn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it was just on a bigger platform, and I think it caused a conversation that a lot of people have been wanting to have for a while, like their opinions on what wrestling is or isn't. Or I think it's a conversation that people have been wanting to truly have for a while, and not really had the way to say it in this match, kind of. I think Vader just saying one thing about it, then fans just blew it out of proportion.
I was wondering. So
And
you're over there with Osprey, and you're reading Twitter,
Yeah.
right? And you see Vader pop up. Honestly, forget about the cameras. He turned them off. What'd you really think when Vader first got involved in the conversation?
I didn't think too much about it, honestly. Because people have hated me since I've started wrestling, and so when he was like, "It's a shame that this is what wrestling has become," it's like, what has it become? Like it can be anything you want it to be. If that's not what you like, then that's fine. But I mean, and I think that's pretty much what I said. And then people were like, "You need to show Vader some respect." I'm like, I didn't say anything bad about Vader. I think Vader's awesome. And then people just keep saying, "You need to show some respect." And I'm like, I don't get what's happening here. I'm just defending myself in the most respectful way possible. Like, I even said, I love Vader. He's the man. Like, I don't know what else I can say. I'm just defending my point on my view on wrestling, I guess.
So you saw Vader and Osprey are scheduled to have a match.
Yeah.
How's that?
I'm actually going to be at that show.
Are you? So if it was you and Vader, what would you do?
I would just have him. I don't really know, to be honest with you. I don't know what he's capable of nowadays. I don't know. He's more on the older side.
Just assume he can still go. What would you do?
Oh, I would have.
How would you make it the best match possible?
I would have him just throwing me around Brock Lesnar style, and then me like fighting back from under. And I mean, I would obviously do as many flips on him as possible, like springboard Z or dies. But I would just have him Brock Lesnar me, all just throw it at me. I think it'd be going just me like from under, like trying to fight back from under. Because obviously, I mean, like there's really that would be the only thing you could do. Because it's not like I'm gonna be suplexing him, or I'm not gonna be giving him any. I'm not shooting him across the ropes. I can't shoot Vader across the ropes. So that's really the only thing I could really see happening.
He's a little crazy, you know.
Is he? I don't think I've ever met him.
Yeah, he's a little nuts. I mean, you know, when he's good, but he's
Yeah.
crazy. I don't know if it's the
Maybe
best
he's
idea
gonna
to
snap
be in a
into his
match.
crazy mode and just.
I think there's a real risk of that. I think people are thinking that.
Sweet, I'm glad it's
This is
Osprey.
yeah, I know. I was gonna say I'm glad it's Osprey for your sake,
Osprey.
because I'm not sure Vader. I think a lot of people would say, "Oh man, I turned this into some good business." I'm not confident Vader's thinking that way. I'm thinking
I
Vader
kinda
thinks
hope
this
he
is 20
just
years ago.
beats him up.
He might.
That's funny.
He might.
I'm gonna watch that for sure.
I remember Vader was kind of in like a retirement of sorts, and you know, we were doing the rest of our union things, and we talked to him about getting back in the ring, and so we made a deal, and the idea was, okay, Vader, we're gonna, because he was getting into shape. Right? First one's gonna be a squash. Second one's gonna be a little more competitive, and then the third one I'm gonna give you, and I want you to be like, you know.
Yeah.
So we put Necro Butcher in there with him.
Okay.
You know, and you
He
figure
just-
if anybody's going to stand
he
up
just
to
beat him
Vader, it's
up?
going to be Necro. Oh, he ate Necro up. But I've never used Necro since, you know, because I was so
Yeah.
pissed off.
Yeah.
Because I flew them both out there, and I was thinking, I want this. In
Yeah.
my mind, I had this idea
Yeah.
of a match.
Two bulls just.
But it was Vader. Vader's, and I talked to Necro afterwards, and he's like, have you talked to Vader?
He's like,
there
"Nah."
there wasn't a choice. Like it was going to go down this way.
Dang. Oh,
So
that
I'm
sucks.
a little concerned for Osprey that maybe.
I mean, you might be right.
It could be it could be a special moment though too.
It could be, but it could be an even better moment if he just beats Osprey up.
Yeah.
No, but again, like he has his views. I mean, I had a lot of people. It was like Regal, Finley, Austin. I had a lot of these guys saying that they really, really enjoyed it. And even I remember Dr. Tom. At first, he had bad things to say about it, and then he made a big post going back saying, he goes, "Actually, I watched the whole match." He goes, "And I thought the match was great." He goes, "The spot that I was looking at was out of context compared to what like actually watching it." And so he went back and he said he watched it and he said it was really, really good. And so like, and that's, I think, just wrestling's just different than it was. And
When you got done with the match and you're in the back, did you think it was going to cause any kind
no,
of
not
stir?
at all.
So,
Not-
not until you saw Twitter blow up. You were.
And even that night, people were like, "Oh, that's a good match," but and I was like, "Okay, thank you guys." I didn't think, even calling matchmaking it. I didn't think, like you said, we've had this match a couple times before, and of course we did it differently, but it wasn't too different. I was just thinking, okay, main event, Cork and Hall. This is Super Juniors, Japanese Super Juniors. Like,
Did you know they were going to put Osprey over at that point for the?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, no, for the whole thing, I didn't know who was winning until I didn't want to know who was winning. I kind of liked, I think all the guys there, like me, Rocky, Seidel, all the guys, Kyle O'Reilly were like, "You think Osprey's winning?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I don't know, man. Taguchi could do this." I was like, "Or this." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, you're right." And I was like, "Maybe Bushi." Blah, blah, blah. So we're like trying to think who's going to win. Like, and I think Osprey knew, but I didn't ask him. I even like wanted to ask him, but I was like, "No, I can't do it." So yeah, it's kind of cool, but especially at that time, I didn't know they were putting him over. I just was thinking main event, Cork and Hall, Super Juniors. Let's put on a good show. You know, and that's all I was thinking. I wasn't thinking about gifts. I wasn't thinking about all that stuff. And that's just, we went out there and it was just one of those matches that just clicked. One of those Dragon Gate USA, me, Eric Cannon, Chuck Taylor, Adam Cole, going back to that date, it was one of those, that match kind of blew up on social media at the time. It wasn't as big, social media wasn't as big at the time, but that match was talked about for a good while. And so I think this is just one of those matches.
What do you do when you get the Twitter haters? Are you point you block them, or is you just?
I don't block them unless it's something just completely stupid and dumb. Like most of the time, and even like, or if it's a guy, he'll say something, I'll give my opinion, and like he's just looking for attention. I'm like, all right, you're just looking for attention. I'm done. But for the most time, everyone has their own opinions. I mean, it's fine. A lot of people don't like me, and that's cool. But I mean, unless it's just something stupid, I'm like, all right, you're blocked. Like, but for the most part, let them hate. I mean, not everyone's gonna like you. If everyone likes you, you're doing something wrong.
Sure.
So.
All right, we're a week removed from the release of the Stone Cold
Yes.
podcast. I knew we were doing this interview like a couple of weeks ago, and so it was kind of like when I heard that I was like, oh man, he's going to do an interview with Austin. No one's going to care. I mean, Austin's Austin, But then after listening to it, I was thinking like, oh man, I want to just ask him a million questions about it.
Yes.
When did you actually film that?
It was the week of Ultima Lucha Tres, so when was that? I think I flew.
It's like a month ago, or?
No, it was June 23rd, because the 24th I had rehearsals, 25th and 6th was the shows, and the 27th I flew to Japan.
All right, so it was about 2 weeks then
23rd.
between
Yeah.
when you filmed it. So do you get an email from Steve? Hey, this is Steve Austin.
No, I got an email from one of our executive producers from Lucha saying, hey, Austin got a hold of us and he wants to have you on his podcast. He's like, would you be interested? I'm like, hell yeah, is what I said. I said, all caps, hell yeah. And so, of course, like, that guy's in my favorite match ever. Why would I not want to?
Had you ever met him before?
No, never before. That was my first time meeting him.
So limo takes you over to Austin's house, right?
No, the talent coordinator, Liz, takes us to...
Liz takes you over there.
Yeah. Who actually, Liz is... I remember Chavo's old music when the girl would go, ooh, Chavo. And then would go into the song. She's Ooh Chavo Girl.
Oh, really?
I was like, oh, man.
Huh.
I remember that song. But she took me over there because she's the talent coordinator.
Okay.
She took me over there, and we were looking for his house. She had his address. We're looking for his house. And literally, she's like, it may be this one or this one or this one. She's like, I don't remember. But literally, in front of the house was a Ford Bronco. I'm like, I'm betting it's this one. And, like, it was like an older one. It had, like, leaves that had fallen on it from the tree. But I was like, I'm thinking this is his house. And sure enough, that was his house. I'm like, yeah, I knew it. I hope this is his Ford. I never asked him. I should have asked him. Also, if you're watching this, I want to know if that's your Ford Bronco.
Yeah, I don't think
In
he's
front of
watching
your
this, but.
Okay. If he happens to.
So you go into his house. You meet him for the first time. I could tell, and maybe I'm wrong. I think you were a little nervous when you started talking to him on the interview.
Oh, 100%.
You completely settled down, and like by the end, it was completely different. But I could tell the first 5 minutes. Like,
Dude,
I would have been pissing my pants.
I just
too,
kept
talking
thinking
to
about
Austin.
WrestleMania 17, him and The Rock. That's all I could think about.
Right.
And, no, but, I was 100%. Yeah, I was.
Do you get in there and you like start the interview right away, or is there like a?
Oh, no, like, we got to his house, and his dogs came out, and playing with Stone Cold's dogs, playing fetch with his dogs for a little bit, like, which was nuts to me. And, we're just sitting there talking. We walk in his house. I'm just looking. He has a bunch of like clocks, like not antiques, but just different style clocks with like different designs, and it's pretty cool. Huge piano right there in the walkway. And then we get in there and
Does he have like a room that's like a studio, or is it just done in the middle of the house? Or
this was just his like in his house. It's in a room. He has the studio, the ones he does for like the WWE Network ones. Mm-hmm. But this one was just. Just at his house in like a room. He had his laptop, his 2 microphones, and he was like, "You ready to do this?" And I was like, "I guess so."
Does he know how to work this stuff, or does he have a technical?
No, he was doing it all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Impressive.
He's the man. He's the freaking man. He was the coolest guy talking to me. Just being.
Were you
cool.
surprised how much he knew of your career?
Yes.
Because you could tell he'd watched Lucha. I mean, he didn't just.
He loves Lucha.
He didn't just like go on Wikipedia and say, "Let me find out something about this guy."
No.
He knew something about you.
And it's. Again, it's just it was such a surreal experience that I'm sitting there like because of wrestling has got me this far. Like literally, I've met Stone Cold now. I met Rey Mysterio. All I need is The Rock, and I'm good. Because obviously Eddie passed, so I can't meet Eddie. But those would be my four guys. So if I can meet The Rock now, Rock, if you're watching this,
You're next.
you're next. No, but and again, like Rey Mysterio was the coolest guy, one of the coolest guys I've ever met. Stone Cold, one of the coolest guys, and that just makes them as much respect I already had for them. It just makes it even better, and he was just the coolest guy.
So you do the interviews, he's sitting there drinking a beer while you're doing it, or is he...
No, actually, he had some water, but it was funny because we get there, and me and Matt Cross had joked about it, but he actually had said this. He was like, "So, Trevor, Ricochet, Puma, what you want me to call you?" I'm like, Trevor's cool, man. Like, any of them's fine, but he goes, "I'll just call you Trevor." I'm like, all right, that's cool. But he was, yeah. But he's sitting there having some water, just being the coolest guy.
And his name, his podcast reaches so many people. I'm sure there's a lot of people never heard of Ricochet.
Yeah, I had a lot of tweets that were like, what are Austin, great podcast with Ricochet, you have a new fan now.
Mhm.
Or someone's like, I never knew about you until now, you have a fan of all this other stuff. And so it's still really cool. And I mean, that just goes to show you how vast the wrestling world is, because whatever you want to say about me, how popular I am, like, however you want to say, oh, he's the most wanted the guy on the indies right now, but like still, like, there's still so many people out there that don't know.
Mhm.
And so hopefully, like Lucha and New Japan and even podcasts like that will help, not me, but just indies or anyone in general branch out and get more popular.
Sure.
So.
All right, well, just wrapping up here, I got just a few things. Like, we talked about you're one of the few guys that can kind of pick and choose wherever you want to go right now. I don't think you're under any particular contract.
Not right now, no.
So what goes into Trevor's head as he's trying to decide the direction of Ricochet? I mean, is it money? Is it time off? Is it...
Right now, it's spacing them out so I have time off. That's kind of what's happening right now, because even I have Bill Behrens is one of my booking agents, so he gets me a lot of really well bookings, and so I just try to space them out now, between now and, like, I guess December, where it's not just here, because I've been like that for the past 2 years, maybe longer now, and I feel like I need some time off. I want to rest. I want to get back on a workout schedule, get back on a eating right. I want to try to, go see my son more, bring him down more, what have you, so that's kind of what goes into my mind now. Like,
Do you have a lot of guilt being a father
oh
that
yeah,
travels so much?
for sure. I think about it all the time, like whether it's his mom or my mom or his grandma or someone that they'll send me a picture of him doing something. I'm just like, I'm missing it. I missed that. I missed him riding his bike. I missed this, so it really it sucks a lot, and that's why, especially nowadays, I'm trying to space it out so I can have some time with him, and even right now, luckily I have such good family at home between my mom and his grandma, and I guess they help it. They're like, Daddy's working.
Because they could make it worse.
They could make it much
the mom,
worse.
The mom could make it just
And
terrible.
we've had our bad times, but now I think we're civil. Like, she just had her own little baby girl with someone else, so they're doing good now. And so, but they could make it much worse, and they help out. They help out a lot. They help it out a lot. So he doesn't never forget about me. And I've Skyped with him. I haven't talked to him recently, but we're going up there in a couple days. So I'm kind of trying to surprise him, because he doesn't really know he's coming to Disney World and all that stuff yet.
This is his first Disney trip?
It's my first Disney trip. And both of them are, yeah, I've never been.
You live in Orlando now for how many years?
I've had people offer me to go to Disneyland in LA, and
Yeah.
I've got offers to go. I was like, I'm going to wait for me and Cameron to go together, because I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, it's his first time, so he doesn't know yet, so they're like keeping it a secret, and I'm like trying to keep it a little secret. So, yeah, I'm trying to make as much time with him as possible, I
Sure.
guess.
So a couple things that we didn't cover, they're kind of out of place, but I just want to make sure we kind of, like, as we're wrapping up here, you did get a tryout for WWE in 2013, right?
December 2013.
What type of you didn't get hired, which I
No.
know a lot of people were shocked, and then after we thought about it,
I wasn't shocked at all, honestly.
Really?
I was a different person than I am now. Different wrestler, I guess. But
Do you really think it was your in ring that didn't get you? Because the
No,
word
I-
on the street, this is the question really, is that they didn't like your accent.
Oh, maybe, but
But that's not what you heard in terms of your feedback.
no, I didn't. Honestly, on the promo day, Regal said it was good. He didn't have any feedback on that at all, and even the match, I don't think they had any negative feedback. I just don't think I was what they were looking for. Honestly, like I don't think they really knew what they were looking for. I think there's just.
Were you
wasn't-
disappointed when there wasn't more of a follow up? I mean, you've had an amazing.
Yeah, I was. I mean, obviously, I was
2014 and
disappointed
on,
because
so-
I was like thinking to myself, "What if this is the only chance I got? What if that was it? I blew my chance. I'm done." You know, so that was going through my head. But at the same time, I was thinking, "That's okay. I'm just gonna keep doing my thing." But then that was December 2013. Then 2014 just blew up for me,
Sure.
and I don't know why. I don't know why it happened. And then 2015, like into 2014, 2015, Lucha happened, so that blew up even happened. And then I started doing more New Japan stuff. So between all that stuff, I'm honestly glad I didn't.
Do you think you would have made as much, and this is pure money, do you think you would have made as much money if you would have been hired at 2014 with WWE to
No.
right now?
No,
Because
not at all.
I was
know
thinking,
wouldn't.
there's a lot of people, the point of getting to WWE is about the money, but, I mean, like we were saying, I think you're in a unique position where I'm counting your dollars now. I'm not sure that being WWE is the most economical way for you.
No, yeah, you're
I'm
probably
not sure
right.
it is for the Bucks either.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're probably right. But again, and that's also people were asking me about that. But there's still some things I want to do outside of the WWE. I still would like to be the junior heavyweight champion for New Japan. I want to do that.
Has New Japan ever offered you like one of those full-time contracts that,
I don't think so because I think they know. Well, for one, I was with Lucha, so they couldn't.
Mhm.
And then now they know I just got out of Lucha, so they probably. I don't know if they want to just give me some time off or what. I don't know, but
well, it doesn't sound like a very smart business thing to do. Seems
And
like they would have offered something to you while you were there last week.
yeah. I mean, I bet they even might. Who knows? But I don't know if I would. I just got out of a contract, so I want to jump right back into another one. So I kind of like being able to just take some time off. I want to take some time off, you know. So,
Because I've heard you say the word, and you said this to me in Dallas, you said this in Steve Austin's podcast, and you said some other places, you're trying to save.
I've been
And it's
I've done pretty good so far. Actually,
it's a pretty responsible thing to say for a guy in his late 20s to realize that.
I have but I've always kind of been that way. My friends would always call me cheap. I was like, no, I'm frugal. And they're like, no, you cheap. I'm like, well, because but the thing is, like, I'll spend money one time on, like, say I'll go out shopping one day, but then the rest of my time I'm kind of like, unless it's food, I don't really buy much. I spend money on food, but other than that, I don't. We go to the movie and they're like, that'd be $11. I'm like, $11? You
It's
kidding
more
me?
than Netflix for a whole month.
Yeah, like you could charge. And that's two people. That's $22 for some movie tickets. But I don't know. I just don't spend much. I think it's just me. I like getting in my phone, going on my bank app, and just looking.
Do you look every day at your bank account?
Yeah, at least once a day. I do. Is that bad? I don't know.
Just once, though?
And it's not even that I'm going to buy anything. I just want it to be there just in case I need it. You know, just in case I need it. And, but yeah, I've just been trying to save as much as possible. Like I said, of course, there's times where I do, one day we'll go out and like, let's go out to the mall and get something. Like, whatever we're going to get. Let's go get some shoes. Let's go get this. Let's go eat. Let's go here. You know.
Because you got to balance it. I mean,
Yeah.
you see people that
You
pass early age and you think like, am I doing all this work? Am I saving all this money? And I want to save, and
Yeah.
you're smart to do so, but you also want to enjoy.
Yeah, you do have to balance it out. It does come with balance. And like I said, this next week coming up, bringing Cameron down to Florida, that's going to be. I've already bought the plane tickets. Luckily, I have a bunch of friends that are hooking me up with tickets to the shows and to the parks, so I thank them a lot for that. But again, he's going to want a teddy bear. He's going to want the souvenir. He's going to want the cool cup. He's going to want this and that. And it's going to be okay because I can, because when I was younger, my parents, they did the best with me. Like, I got
But I'm guessing
video games, and I got
Paducah,
this.
Kentucky, I mean, you probably weren't upper class.
No,
Paducah.
we weren't a rich family. We weren't the poorest, but we didn't have much money. We scraped by a lot of the times, and it was rough. But my mom and dad did the best they could, and so now that's something I'm really proud of. That if Cameron taking him to Disneyland or taking him somewhere, and he wants the $100 souvenir cup, I'm like, in my heart, I'm like, oh, this sucks. I don't want to spend $100 on a cup, but he's gonna be happy when I give him that cup, you know. And I can do that and not hurt myself financially. So that's something I'm really proud of that I've been able to do and save enough where I can do it. Actually, I was just telling the Bucks, we were talking about something, maybe our kids or something, but we went to Toys R Us. And normally Cameron's in there for an hour before he decides on what he wants. Went to Toys R Us. The first one he saw is like this Minecraft dragon. It was a little stuffed dragon. It was maybe this big. He's like, I want this one. I was like, are you sure that's what you don't want to look around? He said, no, I want this one. Okay, let's go. Let's get out of here. I didn't even look at the price. I was just like, let's just go. I'm so happy. We get up there, not thinking. And then she's like, all right, that'll be $63. I'm like, $63 for this dragon. And then he's down there just like, I'm like, okay, man. All right. $63 in this dragon. Just completely backfired in my face. But he was happy. You know, he got it. He liked it a lot. It was like 59 something, but plus tax it was like. And so, I mean, that's kind of what it's about. I mean, I guess that's why I save, I guess, you know, for stuff like that, you know.
So, Guy, you know, we're in the middle of this cruiserweight
Yeah.
title thing.
We just watched the first episode last night.
Yeah?
Bracketology or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really interesting concept, the way WWE is kind of almost creating a juniors division of
Yeah.
sorts. And, I mean, I'm sure that the allure is there. Your roommate is Apollo Crews.
Yeah, he was just main event
you
Raw the other day.
You probably hear all the great things that come along with being in WWE. I almost feel like if you decided to go there, it would be like almost a sacrificing of some money, at least on the short term.
Yeah, and it definitely, I think it would be, especially on the short term. But again, like, for one, I don't mind hard work. I don't mind starting from the bottom and working my way up. So that's not even a problem with me.
But look
I-
at like
I
an
think the
AJ.
long-
So AJ, he wouldn't do it that way.
No
And
way.
I think he held off and he worked in Japan until the timing, the situation said, you know what, I'm not going to start here.
But
I mean,
that's,
you may have that same level of clout.
no way.
You don't think
AJ
so?
is the best wrestler in the world right now. So, and he should be able to pick and choose wherever he wants to go because he's AJ F. Styles. And he's been the best since, when did he start wrestling? So, I mean, he's been the best since then. So, I mean, and he has the accolades, he has the talent to prove that too. And again, I think, for me, like, if I did go, and if I would like to go and learn their style, like, start from the bottom and learn the WWE style, because it is a different style. And
Do you have any
I
type
think-
of confidence issues knowing that you haven't had the opportunity to do like a lot of interviews? I mean, most of your
No,
stuff is so solid in the ring that
thanks
you haven't
to-
had to do the interviews. You haven't had
No.
to do the characters.
Thanks to Lucha, they've given me a bunch of opportunities, especially this new season coming up. But starting season 2 and this new season, they've given me a bunch of opportunities to actually show what I can do. But not really. But I think if I were to go to NXT, they have a bunch of classes that I could learn from, whether it's promo class, this class. They have a bunch of classes there that I would like to use to my full advantage.
Do you have any type of clock in your head because you're getting closer to 30?
Yeah, 28 in this year.
I mean, when you're past 40, you'll see that you're really young. But I'm sure, if I remember right, it's been a long time ago. But when you're getting close to 30, I think something goes in your brain, like you almost feel like you have to hit the fast button, and everything that you want to accomplish, you almost feel like you have to do it.
And yeah, kind of, and that's why like I still again I have a little bit of goals that I want to try to do before I even move on to anything next. So, but at the moment, I'm just kind of still just going with the flow right now. Especially now that I'm no longer contracted anywhere, so I can kind of just do my own thing. But I think I'm thinking of more of the long term right now. Right now, actually, right now I'm doing my thing, but it's hard to explain.
Do you ever think like if you blew your knee out, what would
Honestly,
you
I
do?
try not to think about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because that's gonna happen. I think that's gonna happen whether you thinking about it or not. If that's gonna happen, it's gonna happen when it's gonna happen. If that makes sense. Like
But
when
I'm just wondering if you factor in like, hey, like I buy insurance to protect like on the unfortunate, but when you're a wrestler, the worst case scenario is you can't perform.
no, 100%. And again, I try to keep that out of my mind as much as possible. Sometimes I do think about when my knees ache, and after what happened to TJ with his neck, I think about stuff like that a lot. So I'm constantly trying, but honestly, because if that's gonna happen, it's gonna happen when it's gonna happen, whether you're thinking about it or not, or I don't know, or it's not gonna happen if it's not supposed to happen. Like if that makes sense in some weird way. If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen when it's supposed to happen.
So what do you mean? I don't understand what you're saying when you say you're thinking about all the longer term view right now.
Um, I guess it pretty much goes with saving my money, but I'm just trying to think about when I am older. And that's why I said, would someone ask me, would you like to go into acting like The Rock did? Eventually, yeah, but right now, I want to stick to wrestling and make as much money as possible wrestling. And luckily, I'm in a position to where I actually can make some money wrestling, whether it's in America or abroad. But I'm just trying to think. I guess not even my future, but Cameron's future more than anything, because I want him to be well off. I don't want him to struggle like we had to struggle before. So
So what's Cameron Locke?
Cameron
Because I
Locke.
feel like Cameron, your son, and Cameron Locke somehow come from the same.
Yeah, Cameron Locke. I don't know how that even. It was one show for Chaos Pro Wrestling when I did one show for them a couple years ago, and I didn't want to be Ricochet. I wanted to come back as a heel because everybody thought I was coming back big baby face. And I was like, no, I'm coming back as a heel. I'm going to be Cameron Locke because my son was Cameron at the time, and I think John Locke from Lost. I just liked that.
Okay.
But we came back and we cut a big promo, and they were like chanting Ricochet, and I was like, no, it's no longer Ricochet. I was like, that was my slave name. I'm going by my God-given name. It's gonna be Cameron Locke, and they were like just booing me, and so I did like 2 shows for them maybe as Cameron Locke, but then for some reason like on Wikipedia and all this other stuff, people were like, he went by Cameron Locke for a while. And no, I didn't go by Cameron Locke for a while. I just 2 small shows, and that was it. And for some reason,
Well, if it was on Wikipedia, man.
they know Cameron Locke, and I don't know how.
Talk about, you had a great run in Japan with Matt Sydal lately.
Yes.
I know he's gone on record of, a lot of people ask him about your future, and I know he's hoping that you stick to him because he knows what
That's
good
what
when
he
he
keeps
sees
saying.
it.
He goes, as soon as we become tag partners, I just start winning belts left and right. I'm like, well, me too. But no, that's been a really, really cool experience for me because when I first started breaking out into the IWAs and all that stuff. He was doing the Ring of Honor and stuff. He had a name for himself. And I remember people being like, he's going to be like the next Seidel. And I thought that was so cool because he was one of my favorites to watch. He was just everything he did was so cool, so crisp and clean. And we had 2 matches together, and I just looked up to him a lot. And then he got signed. And even once he got signed, he kind of just still kept in touch. And I thought that was really cool because sometimes people, they, not on purpose, they get busy and they just lose contact with you, and it just kind of sucks. And he always kept in contact with me, and I thought that was really cool. So I just looked up to him even more. And then his very first match back from WWE was in Dragon Gate at Kobe World in front of almost 11,000 people. So that's a pretty cool way to come back.
Absolutely.
And it was me and Yoshino versus him and Shima, and I thought that was cool. And then New Japan stuck us together, and it was, people always tell us, it's kind of a no-brainer. Like, why weren't you guys teaming before? Because we're just so similar, but we're different, but we're similar, if that makes sense. And he's so positive all the time. So even in like just crappy situations, he'll find a way to make it positive. And so it's just really hard to be upset when he's around because he's like, what can you do? He's like, this is what's supposed to happen in this. And he's just such a positive guy, and he always just goes with his gut, I guess you'd say. Even one time we were in a match. It was like a 6-man match. He's like, what's next? And as I'm about to say it, he's like, oh, never mind. I'm like, what do you mean, never mind? I want to know if you know what's coming up next. He's like, I'm just going to go with my gut. I'm like, no, I wouldn't tell you. He's like, no, it's okay. I'm like, okay. But then he did it. It was fine. He goes, I knew what was happening. When a guy was going to come to me, I knew what I was going to do. And that's what happened. So now a lot of times I try to keep that mentality. If I'm in the ring or whatever, it's like, all right, just go with it. Like, it's hard to do, but he seems the way to make it positive. And it's just, he makes every experience just happy, I guess.
Well, Trevor, Ricochet, you've had an amazing run these last couple of years, and I know I've been chasing. I want to do the interview. You were the first day, I think, of when we did those best friends interviews. Yeah. And I really thought at that time that they were going to replace Kevin in terms of getting like a real thorough, how this guy thinks, and they ended up doing a different style, and that's fine. So like I'm glad I finally got you on the chair and got to pick your brain and kind of cover your career.
We didn't have to talk about how I wiped.
we haven't talked about that. But really, no matter what you decide to do in the future, in my opinion, you should throw Chucky a bone. Right? You tag with Chucky, you take him to Japan.
No, I think he's still so incredibly good.
All his tag partners keep leaving him.
I think he's his worst own enemy because he's so athletic. He's got a great brain for wrestling. He, I don't know. I think this comedy thing kind of came about, but I think if he really wanted to, he could be so incredibly good. Because most everything that I've got is because of him driving me across the United States, because of him getting me booked here and there. So, yeah, he's the man. I would love to have a match with him now. We had one a couple years back at PWG, but I would like to have one now because I think it would be great.
Well, Chucky's on like a 10-match win streak at PWG, man. Watch out.
So maybe not there.
He's going to roll you over.
Maybe not there. He is on a win streak there. So maybe not there, somewhere else.
All right. Well, thanks again for your time. And hey,
No problem.
Listen, one other thing. Take care of Tessa.
Of course.
All right, the girl. So thank you so much.
No problem.
Mitch, prepare yourself for some high-flying action here. Tyler Black and Ricochet, two of the best young flyers here in IWA Mid-South. Maybe we'll see it tonight, Mitch, but Ricochet employs a double moonsault off the top rope. 2 rotations in the air. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Well, I'll tell you what, your opinion of the most amazing thing and mine are probably on opposite ends of the scale.
Fair enough. That's probably true.
I'll be the judge when I see what's up. And if I'm not impressed, I'll probably slap you.
I don't doubt you for 1 second, Mitch. I don't doubt you for a second. Tyler Black with the size
He's
advantage.
already apologizing for something. Apparently, I've missed something already.
You know what? I don't know that he had anything to apologize for. This is a wrestling match, if I'm not mistaken. And now, nice. He drop kicked all the way to his feet there. Nice. Head scissors takeover. Double stomp. Moonsault. 1, 2, and wow, we could have seen it over just like that.
The kid's quick. I will give you that. He's very fast, but fast doesn't always mean anything.
Once you slow him down, he's not
right.
going to outstrike you. He's certainly got to use his quickness, and he's done that to this point. Really out-quick Tyler Black. I think maybe taking him by surprise.
And he's on the mark with everything. He's landing it all. Let's see what he's going to do here.
Ricochet, this just his second trip here to Indiana, or to Plainfield. He debuted here just the last time we were here. And now, fireman's carry, taking him all the way over to the wall. What could he have in mind here? He just
It looks like
Finley rolls on the floor.
slammed his head in the wall first or something.
Oh, and I think I just saw him moonsault off the bleachers as well, Mitch. Tyler maybe was a little surprised there at that opening flurry from Ricochet, but he's certainly regained control now. Black rolls him back in the ring. Ricochet gets a shoulder. That's one thing. Ricochet, he might not be the biggest, but he could take a beating. We've seen it so far here in his time here in IWA Mid-South. He can take a beating with the best of them and just keep coming and keep coming. He just needs that 1 second where you make a mistake and he can hit that double moonsault, and it's over. No one's gotten up. He's beaten Eddie Kingston with that move. He's beaten Chuck Taylor with that move. He's been very impressive. He hit it with on Sal Tomaselli in a 6-man tag. It would have been over had Brandon Tomaselli not pulled the referee out before the 3 count. It's a devastating move. No one gets up after he hits it. And that's the thing that he's got going for him, Mitch, is that if he hits that move, no matter how much you beat him up, if you can't pin him and he hits that move, it's over.
That's very understandable. When you hit your move, it's over. When you hit your move, it's over. Well, I'll tell you what, I have never been able to see anybody hit a moonsault, let alone a double moonsault, when their back is on the mat. And that's where he's at right now.
And now looks like maybe a giant swing here from Tyler Black, taking advantage of the lack of weight that Ricochet has, and now just throws him face first into the bottom rope. He caught a face full of bottom rope there to Ricochet. And now Tyler Black looks like he's going to take flight. One of the best high flyers here in IWA Mid-South, the former IWA Mid-South light heavyweight champion. Tyler Black recently going toe-to-toe with Low Key in Low Key's debut match here in IWA. Sunset flip, but Tyler smartly holds on to that middle rope, but no, wait, momentum takes him all the way over. Just a 2, however. Ooh!
Right into the solar plexus. Oh, man.
That'll knock the wind out of you for sure. And now Black is going to tie Ricochet up in the trio. Whoa.
This is never a good place
No,
to
it's
be.
not.
Never.
Completely helpless. Jumping up and planting both feet right in the mush of Ricochet. He may have knocked him out. No, now Ricochet moving a little bit, but he's certainly dazed.
But he certainly felt that.
And now, holding on, now lands on his feet. Beautifully done. Looking for a backslide. No, unable. Crucifix takes him over 1, 2. Almost. Again, the quickness, the surprise, the flash pins of Ricochet really throwing Tyler Black off his game a little bit here.
He's there, and he's not seeming to be able to get it totally done. But yet again, almost pinfalls don't impress me. They don't impress me.
Right, the only ones that count are the ones that go all the way to 3.
That's right. When the ref counts 3, then I'm impressed. At 2.5, it just means you haven't beat the man enough.
Excellent point. Now Black throws him off. More quickness from Ricochet. Here we go. Oh, beautiful. DDT. Literally knocks him all the way back to his feet. Now climbs up. Victory roll. 1, 2. Oh, barely gets his shoulders up.
I believe the referee stopped count on that for some reason.
Bridge. More back and forth pins. It was very close. It looked like Tyler was able to get his shoulders up off the mat just enough. PJ Drummond right there on top of the action. Ricochet now. Oh! Stun gun across the top. Oh! Wow! Oh!
You shoved it right down his throat right there.
2 7/8 there. Now, no, wait a minute. Going for the power bomb. Sunset flip. Oh, again, so close. Ricochet almost beating Tyler Black, but Black just able to get his shoulders off the mat. Ricochet now, I think he might be pulling him in. Yes, I think this is it. I have to imagine that this is the opening he's looking for. He's going for that double moonsault. Nobody home. Tyler Black had it scouted. Nothing but a face full of mat for young Ricochet. And now, Brainbuster picks him right back up. Reverse Brainbuster, and that's going to be it. 3.
That's it right there.
Winner of this match, Tyler Black. Tyler Black finally able to keep Ricochet down to the mat for the 3 count. And now, back on the winning track is Tyler Black. Another valiant effort from Ricochet. But it wasn't enough as Tyler Black victorious here in Plainfield, Indiana.